Chapter 1128. People were still coming and going at the dock, and it did not change at all because of the arrival of a Japanese ship. Even though Luzhou's people knew what had happened in Jiangnan province some time ago, it was not that they did not hate the Japanese, but they did not take them seriously. For the people of Luzhou, Japan was not a threat. If Governor Zhang's family was willing, they could send a fleet directly from Luzhou. Even if they could not destroy Japan at once, they could at least prevent them from going to sea. If they wanted to eat fish, they could find the rivers on the various islands of Japan to catch fish. Therefore, when they found a Japanese ship docked at the dock today, the people doing business at the dock just glanced over and knew it was the Japanese, so they continued with their business. They were not interested in the purpose of the Japanese at all. The emperor, Xiaobao, and Cuckoo were all there, so they believed that the Japanese were definitely not here to look for trouble. Su Mingyang was also watching. He knew a little more than the people of Luzhou, so he understood that the Japanese were afraid of being beaten. On the way to His Majesty's palace, Xiaobei had received him. Someone had hurried back. Calculating the time, it was about time to meet the person who went back. He saw a person jump off the ship first, and then he waved at the ship. Many people followed him. Some of them were tied with ropes and were pushed to the shore. Yo! They are playing the trick of injuring themselves to gain sympathy and sending scapegoats? Poor people, poor Japanese ruling class. They are so scared. Unfortunately, it's useless. You don't know what Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan are planning this time. They want your country to fall. It's not just a matter of extortion. Seeing the situation of the Japanese, Su Mingyang immediately knew what the other party was up to, so he sighed with emotion. He thought that he knew Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan well. The two of them would not let Japan go. Although they usually did things, they always liked to leave a way out for others, such as what happened to him a few days ago. However, leaving a way out referred to the people of Great Tang, not to the outside world. It was not so easy to talk to the outside world. Leaving a line for internal affairs is magnanimous, but leaving a line for external affairs is weakness. Especially when it came to the Jiangnan Dao, Su Mingyang felt that he could analyze it, let alone the people in the imperial court. The Jiangnan Dao incident seemed to be a joint effort of many small countries and tribes. It gave people the feeling that the law couldn't punish the majority. Everyone's plan had been seen through, so everyone just had to apologize and be done with it. But the matter itself was definitely not so simple. There had to be someone leading. If it was said that a group of people from a small place in the southwest would come out to lead something, Su Mingyang would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. Unless the Southwest Imperial Edicts wanted to exterminate them. Since it was impossible for them to be from the 6th Zhao, then who was their leader? Clearly it was the Japanese. Duosha really did want to go to war with the Great Tang. To be more precise, the Great Tang made it look like it was going to attack Duosha. Ever since the Tibetans and the Turks no longer posed a threat, and the Great Tang had submitted, the Great Tang's army had turned to them. Su Mingyang felt that even if he were the one making decisions about the Great Tang, he would still continue to expand, especially in the west. Whether it was in the southwest or the northwest, there were large tracts of land that had yet to be occupied. There was a road from that side that merchants would always use, and they knew that there were things that the Great Tang lacked. Of course, the northeast also had its fair share of good things. Especially after Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had taken over, they had pushed quite a bit of distance into the northeast. Each year, they would send a batch of precious items to various parts of the Great Tang. But the winters in the northeast were truly too cold, and there were many wild beasts and few people. If they wanted to continue to occupy, there was no need to be in too much of a hurry. The natives there posed no threat. Thus, they could only set their sights on the Duosha. Who told them to have the power of religion? They could not be given a chance to develop. And they certainly could not be allowed to act prematurely. Thus, it was reasonable to say that the Duosha wanted to cause trouble. The problem was that the Duosha didn't seem to have a very good understanding of the Great Tang's Jiangnan path. Only the Japanese, who had the convenience of the sea, were able to establish a close relationship with the Great Tang seaports. At the same time, they also had an intelligence network. The Duosha were nothing more than a support to confuse the people with religion. The Japanese were the culprits. They had a perfect plan, and at the same time, they had integrated the resources of the other people, changed the religion, and arranged for the people of the 6 Zhao, who were familiar with the mountains and forests, to be stationed at Mount Lu. Since that was the case, how could Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan not have thought of it? So Japan could forget about having a good time. The people who came to Luzhou today, let alone the scapegoats of the various Japanese clans, even if their own clan leaders came, it would be useless. Su Mingyang watched as the Japanese disembarked from the ships, thinking to himself. The only thing he could not understand was why Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had not sent troops to attack Japan earlier. With the Great Tang's fleet, it would have been too easy for them to occupy a place to disembark. At that time, they would be able to continuously transport soldiers over, and then the cannons would open the way, the infantry would advance, and the navy would support them from the side. There would also be hot air balloons in the sky. In less than a year, they would be able to flatten Japan. However, the truth was that the two of them were indifferent. Apart from making a fuss, they did not do anything else. It gave the impression that they had endured this matter, and even gave the other party a chance to negotiate. Most of the Great Tang's forces were gathered in Jiannan. In the name of helping the Tubo disaster relief, many people had gone there, including those who could fight and those who could support logistics. They looked as if they were going to attack the Duoshi. Then they just left the soldiers there and did not move. Instead, the imperial court sent out generals to attack and harass the Duoshi. To be more precise, Wang Wan took advantage of the Great Tang's advantage of having many horses and the shortcoming of the Duoshi, telling the Great Tang generals to go over and play a magnetic tactic with the Duoshi. The Great Tang's army was divided into waves and engaged in actual combat. At the same time, the speed of the advance and the ratio of casualties were limited. What exactly was Wang Wan planning to play? If he were in the position of the two of them, with the current economic foundation of the Great Tang as a backing, he would have already attacked. Yet the two of them were walking slowly, giving the impression that they were in their 70s or 80s. He had never seen such a clingy person. They actually brought His Majesty to Luzhou to play. Nominally, they were going to look at the railway, but what was there to look at? It did not matter whether they looked at it or not. Could it be that the speed of cultivation would double just by looking at it? I really don't understand. Could it be that they think that the Great Tang is already doing well and have lost the desire to improve? If that's the case, perhaps there will be internal strife in the Great Tang. While thinking about this matter, Su Mingyang walked to the side where tea and soup were provided. He asked for a bowl of hot tea, sat on a stool, and drank 2 mouthfuls before sighing in puzzlement. As soon as he finished speaking, a child's voice suddenly sounded from behind him. Su Mingyang, as an official of the imperial court, you don't want to build a good place. Instead, you're thinking about internal strife in the Great Tang. Do you know that your words will shake the hearts of the ordinary people? Su Mingyang was startled. He turned around and saw Zhang Xiaobei and 11 other people standing behind him. Each of them was holding an ice cream cone and eating it. Pan, and the other 2 little ones had eaten all over their faces, and their little hands were full of sticky juice. However, they still tried to eat and refused to let others help them. Su Mingyang hastily explained. I speak softly. Besides, this is Luzhou. How can the hearts of the people be shaken? How can I hear you if you speak softly? If you think that the people of Luzhou will not be affected by your words, then you should say it. After a long time, you should develop a habit. Tell me, what is it that you don't know? I'll explain it for you. Don't make wild guesses. Xiaobei glared at Su Mingyang and said with a dignified look on his face. Su Mingyang smiled. He looked at Xiaobei and said, "Oh, Inspector Zhang, do you know?" Xiaobei nodded. "I know a thing or two. I'm going to ask. I want to know why your brother and sister are not fighting Japan or Duoshi now." Su Mingyang did not hold back. Xiaobei took a bite of ice cream and said, "Who said they are not fighting? Duoshi is fighting now. Isn't a small-scale war a war? A small-scale war is called friction, okay? If we can't kill one person in half a day, we won't get any results even if we fight for a year. Duoshi can keep sending troops. Even if they are further away, they can still make it in time. After waiting for a long time, their main force will be there, and we will be caught off guard. Can you understand? Su Mingyang was amused when he heard Xiaobei say this to him. He decided to help Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan teach their sister. When the time comes, they should be able to owe him a favor, right? Unexpectedly, not only did Xiaobei not show an expression of being taught, but he curled his lips and said, Su Mingyang, do you know that they can gather many people after a long time? Not bad, you are a little smart. I want to ask you, how long will it take for them to gather, and how many people can they gather? In my opinion, a year's time is enough. Even if the journey is long, if you don't take the opportunity to destroy their vanguard now and occupy the advantageous terrain, when their main forces arrive, it will be difficult to deal with your family. You are fighting now using cannons and guns. Your sister also stipulated that there should not be too many casualties. When the time comes, they should learn how to guard against it. When the army rushes in, if your sister wants to use cannons and other weapons to fight, the effect will definitely be far worse. If it were me, I would immediately go to Tubo, where your family's Qinghai Lake is located, and gather the troops to kill Duosher's vanguard, so that they can't figure out the situation and understand our tactics thoroughly. Then they will continue to lead the army forward and take down all of Duosher in one go. As Su Mingyang spoke, he picked up a broken shell on the ground and drew a map at his feet for Xiaobei and the others to see, not caring whether they could understand it or not. Xiaobei looked at the map, picked up a shell, and filled in the places that Su Mingyang didn't draw, and said to him, This is where Duosher is. How long do you think it will take for us to fight our way there? So big? Su Mingyang really didn't know how big Duosher's territory was. When he saw what Xiaobei drew, he also knew the difference between the distance on the map and the actual distance, so he said in surprise, How big do you think it is? Even if we advance at full speed, what do we use to push? Can our people adapt to the local climate? Do they have a good relationship with the locals? Have the intelligence troops infiltrated? Do you think that war is about who has more soldiers, who has more brave soldiers, and who has more advanced weapons? Brother and sister are fighting an all-around war. We will first carry out small battles here, giving Duosher a chance to get familiar with us. Let's make them not dare to immediately send all of their main forces to us without knowing our strategy. Let's add fuel to the fire, and follow up on other aspects. We'll sow discord among them, bribe their local people to help, and destroy their economic foundation. Then when we finally deal with them, I thought that you were smarter, but I didn't expect you to be so stupid. Do you see that the great Tang's imperial court is now rich and think that you can squander it? Don't you see the crisis that the great Tang is in now? There needs to be a purpose in war. Other than occupying other people and plundering their resources, we also need to shift the internal conflicts out. Our great Tang won't take too long to. I won't tell you, so you can guess for yourself. In any case, it's not as easy as you think. When we really fight, we have to go back and forth. For example, when our logistics can't keep up, we need to stop and negotiate with them, giving them space to play. Once the logistics are ready, we can continue fighting, just like how I dealt with you, dragging you back and forth. If not for brother and sister speaking up, I would have tortured you for a period of time before I was satisfied. Xiaobei acted like a teacher as he spoke to Su Mingyang. Su Mingyang's eyes went round and his mouth dropped open. This was especially true for the last sentence, which scared Su Mingyang. It turned out that he still had to thank Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. After Xiaobei's explanation, Su Mingyang had a rough idea of what was going on, but he still refused to admit defeat. I know Duosher, but we have to take it slow. Japanese, could it be that your family's fleet can't break through? What family? It's the Great Tangs, okay? Don't speak nonsense. My family only has a few servants assigned according to their rank and no other armed forces. Do you admit it? Xiaobei hurriedly corrected him. I admit it. The Great Tang's fleet. Why can't the Great Tang's fleet attack? Su Mingyang readily agreed. Because if we fight now, we will lack manpower to help build the railway. Once the war starts, the two countries will be hostile, and it will be much more troublesome to get people from Japan to help build the railway. Unless we capture their people, it will also be difficult to manage them. Once they flatten the railway, the Great Tang's railway will be delayed for a long time. It's not worth it, so we have to use a soft knife. Unless Japan takes the initiative to start the war, we can only use coercion to make the Japanese compromise step by step, like drinking poison to quench thirst. Even if the Japanese know that the final result won't be good, they won't dare to lightly start a war. They can only look for other ways to solve it. If they change a matter that should be a military conflict to diplomacy, the effect won't be worse than directly attacking, understand? You play here by yourself, I'm going back. I have to personally meet Takeshita Junichiro. Come let sister wash your face. You ate until you become a little kitten. Xiaobei said a few words to Su Mingyang, then pulled who had just finished eating and felt that her face and hands were uncomfortable, over to the side to find cold water and wash her. Su Mingyang looked at the 11 children and left in the car. Recalling what he had just said, he muttered, "What's there to show off about? Wasn't it your brother and sister who told you? Children, do you really think you know a lot?" Chapter 11:29. Su Mingyang couldn't see the carriage that Xiaobei and the others were in. He turned his head and saw many people at the dock busily unloading gifts for the Tang Empire from the Japanese ships. He shook his head and whispered, "You are even more foolish. The Tang Empire is not the Tang Empire of the past. In the past, you sent a bunch of worthless things, and the emperor would give you more rewards. Every time you came to make money. Now it's useless to send anything. At most, you will be given some coupons, and you can only spend them in the designated places of the Tang Empire. There is no cheap thing in the designated places. We are going to deal with you soon, but you still foolishly sent people to ask for peace. If it were me, I would directly call back all the Japanese in the Tang Empire and then fight to the death. The Tang Empire can't attack immediately. There is still Duoshire. Then, we will secretly send people to the battlefield where the Tang Empire and Duoshire are fighting to understand the various tactics of the Tang Empire. At the same time, we will recruit good craftsmen in the country and work hard to develop advanced technology. Even if we can't make guns and cannons in a short time, we will try to make our weapons better. Also, we will send the children to a distant place under the protection of the military. Even if some of them are swallowed by the waves, we will leave behind some seeds. The rest of the Japanese will be able to fight to the death when the Tang Empire is free. The Tang Empire may not be able to kill all the Japanese in 3 to 5 years. At that time, surrendering will be better than what we are doing now." Su Mingyang felt sad for the Japanese. They lacked courage. Otherwise, how could they be bullied so badly by the Tang Empire, and have to use people to take the blame? How sad would the people who were chosen feel? Su Mingyang thought very well, but he thought of it now that he knew the layout of the Tang Empire. As he watched the Japanese unload the goods, another person's voice came from behind him. "Lord Su, you have a good idea. I admire you. I really admire you. Can you people from the Zhang family and Wang family not be so scary? Can't you show your face in front of me when you speak?" Su Mingyang, who was frightened again, looked back and saw that it was a manager of the Chamber of Commerce. He sighed and said helplessly, "I didn't want to scare Lord Su. I just happened to be behind you and thought that Lord Su heard my footsteps, so I said those words. Lord Su, please don't blame me. It's just that I don't agree with Lord Su's words and have some other thoughts." The manager of the Chamber of Commerce apologized with a smile and began to object to Su Mingyang's words. Su Mingyang asked gloomily, "Oh, do you have a different opinion too? Tell me about it." "Yes, I was thinking about it. Although Japan currently has the emperor, there are also other clans. Some are in favor of war, while others are in favor of peace. The Japanese coming to the Great Tang to cause trouble was definitely arranged by those in favor of war. If their plan in the Jiangnan circuit had succeeded, and if their backup plans in other parts of the Great Tang had also succeeded while the Great Tang was in chaos, they would have the right to speak in the country. But they failed, and they didn't cause any major losses to the Great Tang. Instead, they provoked a backlash from the Great Tang. Thus, someone had to bear the responsibility. Their prestige in Japan would definitely plummet. At this critical time, they still want to fight to the death with the Great Tang. Before the Great Tang's soldiers can go, Their heads will be cut off by the peace faction and sent to the Great Tang to ask for peace. Of course, I don't think they are afraid of death. What they are afraid of is that once their entire faction is finished, Japan will have no hope and will be wiped out by the Great Tang through various means. Thus, in order to preserve a little seed, they can only choose to make concessions in the country and endure humiliation in order to make a comeback. It was precisely because the young master and young lady had considered this that they did not immediately send troops to attack. Instead, they mobilized the army to put pressure on the other side and make them compromise. Otherwise, if they really did go to war, they would immediately be able to unite in the face of this crisis. In this way, the young master and young lady's early efforts would truly have been for naught, and they would have wasted their time without obtaining any benefits. This truly was not worth it. War was like a business. If the cost was too high, there would be no profit. This was a business that would lose money. If you want to lose money and make money, you shouldn't put it on the Japanese. Japan has already been suppressed, so there's no need to continue making money. If you don't believe me, Lord Su, the two of us can make a bet. Before the new year, Japan will completely lose its ability to fight. I'm willing to bet 10,000 strings of cash. What does Lord Su think? The manager of the conglomerate spoke of his thoughts and proposed a bet with Su Mingyang. There's no need. This official doesn't have that much money to bet, and gambling is not good. It's better for people to earn money honestly. After all, gambling is not the right path. Su Mingyang did not dare to accept. As the manager of the conglomerate spoke, he also realized that Japan had probably begun to engage in various struggles for power. There were countless schemes, but they were not aimed at the Great Tang, but at other powers. Before the Great Tang could even fight, his own country was already in chaos. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were truly capable. It was no wonder that they did not directly go to war. Chaos was good for them. Moreover, when he thought about the Great Tang's current situation, Su Mingyang couldn't help but sigh. The Great Tang was much better. At the very least, when the Great Tang said that it was going to fight, no officials in the imperial court objected. Even the scholars did not appear to complain that war was wrong. This was because Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were using the excuse of helping the people of other countries to live better lives and to educate them. This was justifiable in the grand scheme of things. The simplest example was in the northern part of Hebei province. Because they could not survive, the people who fled and the locals of the Great Tang formed a new county. Their lives were clearly better, and they were in a very comfortable situation. This proved that the rulers of Xinlua did not treat their people well. There were still many people in the world who needed the help of the Great Tang. Even if they used war to overthrow the original ruling class, although the process was painful, the results were good. The most important thing is that the Great Tang is now rich and has advanced weapons. No one in the imperial court is against war. If the poor people keep revolting in various places, not to mention war, as long as the national treasury takes out money to do anything, many people will stand up to oppose. As Su Mingyang thought about it, he was even more convinced of the fact that war was fought for money. You go about your business first. This official will look around and see if I can think of a better idea to help the local people solve some practical problems. It's not easy to be the provincial governor of Luzhou. Su Mingyang waved his hand at the manager of the conglomerate and stood up, intending to take a stroll. Lord Su, are you sure you don't want to gamble? In fact, you can be rich. When the new year comes, as long as you don't do anything else, you can get a comfortable reward. It's more than the previous one. The previous one didn't come up with a good idea to build railway tracks at the docks. The manager continued to ask. At the same time, he reminded Su Mingyang that the more things he did for the local people, the more rewards he would get when the time came. Su Mingyang continued to wave his hand. There's no need. I never bet with people. After saying that, he continued to walk to the unloading ship. He wanted to come up with a better idea. Even if it was a little more efficient, he could get more rewards. He was really tempted by the manager's words. It was not only to get more money, but more importantly, if he took more money, he could give an explanation to the people who supported him behind the scenes. He wanted to show them that he, Su Mingyang, was not just a person who came to Luzhou to mess around. Compared to the previous ones, he was a capable person. There would definitely be no problem for him to continue to support him in the future. Lord Su, you're here? Su Mingyang had just stood beside one of the unloading ships when someone greeted him warmly. He turned to look. Wei Wei nodded. However, he did not know the other party. However, he knew he must have come up with a good idea that had gained some recognition from the locals. Otherwise, he would be like before. No matter where he went, as long as he did not take the initiative to speak, others would treat him as if he was invisible. They would stand beside him, but they would not speak to him. They would not even look at him. It was depressing. When Su Mingyang thought about this, he felt that it was easy to be the provincial governor of a province, especially the provincial governor of a small province. There were very few counties under the jurisdiction of a province. If he really became a provincial governor, he would just have to wander around and see the situation at the bottom. With what he had learned, it was not too difficult. Even if he could come up with useful ideas for a county every month and improve the lives of hundreds of people, he would still gain a lot in a year. Moreover, if he did not have any special opportunities, he would not be able to leave after a year as the provincial governor of a province. Many times he would have to stay for 3 to 5 years or even die of old age. Of course, in the current Great Tang, if a provincial governor was truly capable, he would not die of old age unless he was already old when he became provincial governor. As long as he was willing to do practical things for the people and improve their lives, even if a province had 10 counties, he would be able to help tens of thousands of people in 5 years if he helped a few hundred people every month. The people did not have knowledge. Could it be that the officials of the current era who had studied political economy and had the opportunity to report things they did not understand to the officials in the capital? After receiving guidance, would they not be able to solve the problems of the people's lives? If that was really the case, not to mention dying of old age in the position of provincial governor, he would probably be impeached before he could even hold the position for long. The current Great Tang was still better. Although Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were a little too domineering, their eyes were very bright. They usually collected intelligence on places and found that the officials of a place were really capable. After the officials made achievements, if the people of the imperial court did not care about them, they would immediately promote them through another channel. This gave the officials hope. They knew that as long as they put their mind on the people's lives, they did not need to spend money to curry favor with the higher-ups to be promoted. They also did not need to worry that they would say something wrong and offend the higher-ups and be suppressed by the higher-ups. If the officials dared to suppress them after they made achievements, the higher-ups would be the ones to suffer before the officials. I guess I can't think of a better way to do things at the docks. Do I have to find other places that are not perfect? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were too hateful. They had planned Luzhou so well that they could not find any new ideas even if they wanted to. Farming, breeding, tourism, and seafood processing, they had everything. Moreover, the roads were also built. Where should I start? It's difficult. If there's no other way, I'll just take a look at the county below. After all, there's no one waiting for me. I don't have to worry about wasting manpower and money. Su Mingyang wanted to reap more benefits and was prepared to continue working hard. However, he suddenly realized that it was too difficult to do anything outstanding. However, he did not give up. He did not believe that all the plans were perfect. Even if they were perfect in the past, as the place developed, there would be new areas that could be improved. If he seized the opportunity, he would be able to earn more money. With that thought in mind, Su Mingyang left the docks and found a carriage. He instructed a servant beside him to return to the mansion and report that he was going to the county below. Then he sat in the carriage and waved his hand. With great ambition, he made his way to the county. Compared to Su Mingyang's ambition, Takeshita Junichiro was trembling with fear. He took a few people who had lost in the family struggle as scapegoats and rushed to Luzhou as quickly as he could. At first, he was happy because the Emperor of Great Tang, Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan had not left Luzhou for the time being. The information he had gathered in Hangzhou had not left him in vain. Otherwise, if he was late, who knew what Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan would think? Would they think that he was stalling for time and send troops? However, as soon as he arrived at the docks, before he could ask where the Emperor of Great Tang was, He first learned from the conversations of the local people that Nanzhao had sent people over. Moreover, they had received a certain level of understanding and would send more leaders over soon. He did not know if they were going to be beheaded or locked up. Perhaps, what he did not want the most was to be forgiven by Great Tang. If that was the case, Japan was in danger. When his ship passed by Chuanzhou, the information he received there was not very favorable to Japan. The Duoqi people had moved, and then the Tang army had moved as well. When he first received the news, he was happy for a moment. However, who knew that before he could finish being happy, he received the following information. Duoqi first gathered 2,000 people, then continued to gather thousands of people, but they did not send them forward. What could 2,000 people fight? They were not the Zhang family's or Wang family's protection team. If it was a 2,000-strong protection team, perhaps they would have a very strong combat power. They would not be at a disadvantage when facing an ordinary 20,000 to 30,000 army. But did Duoqi have that ability? 2,000 people. The cavalry guarding Qinghai Lake would be gone in a circle. They did not even need to use cannons. They just needed to organize the cavalry and attack. Although Duoqi was also a cavalry, when the two armies were close to each other, the cavalry of Great Tang had guns. Those called rifles might not be very accurate when they were moving, but how could the troops of the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families not have guns? Guns were too disgusting. When the two sides were close to each other, they would be shot down by guns. Could it be that Duoqi did not know and ran over to die? However, the next news he heard was even more uncomfortable. The Great Tang had sent troops, but they were not the local soldiers of the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families who had actual combat experience. Instead, they were the soldiers from Shannan West and Jiannan West, and they were small batches. At the same time, the general sent by the Great Tang was not from the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families, but the commander of the Great Tang Military Academy. From the intelligence, it was obvious that the Great Tang and Duoqi were playing. Now, the news that Lu Zhou received said that the leader of the Six Zhao had come. If they were fine and the Great Tang did not send troops to fight, would the Great Tang's troops just stay there? Thinking about it, it was impossible. Who would they attack? Fighting Xi and Luo? With Xi and Luo's current state, why would they need the Great Tang to fight? If the troops in Jili province went over, they would just directly occupy it. It was that simple. Since they could not fight Xi and Luo, who else could they fight? The only one left was Japan. Could it be that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan wanted to gather their troops to attack Japan? What should they do? With these thoughts in mind, Takeshita Junichiro set off for Lu Zhou's mansion. He needed to enter the mansion first before he could apply to see the emperor of the Great Tang. Even if he applied, it might not be approved. Along the way, Takeshita Junichiro deliberately slowed down. Occasionally, when he met a citizen of Lu Zhou, he would give them some benefits. Then he would ask about recent events in Lu Zhou, especially if there were any movements in the southwest. He wanted to gather more information. This time, Takeshita Junichiro had brought many gifts to Great Tang. The most direct was silver. 3 million taels of silver were temporarily in Hangzhou. Along with the ship were corals, large abalones, and dried abalones that had been there for several years. These were all things that the great families of Japan had taken out from their homes. Otherwise, they would not have been able to gather them. Takeshita Junichiro found this incredible. The economy of Japan was developing normally, and every time they traded with the Great Tang, they would get a lot of money from the Great Tang, which they could use to buy things back. At the same time, countless merchants from the Great Tang went to Japan to do business, especially with the development of tourism. In this way, Japan should be very rich. Moreover, they had rented ships from the Great Tang to go overseas. For now, only a few ships were out there. It was not that they did not want to send more, but the Great Tang had stopped renting ships. The gunships and steam engine ships out there had not received orders from the Great Tang yet. They hoped that they would not return too quickly and would stay out there to plunder more things. Since they had developed, increased trade and had money, why couldn't Japan take out money? Where did all the money go? Takeshita Junichiro could not understand. The more they developed, the poorer they became. Japan's national treasury was empty, and the Japanese people could not fork out more money. If they were forced to collect money, it would not be difficult to gather 10 million strings of coins. However, no one dared to do so. Moreover, 10 million strings of coins would not be much if they were distributed to everyone. What was the reason? The more Takeshita Junichiro thought about it, the more confused he became. He had to analyze the information he heard from the people in Luzhou. It did not take long for him to feel a splitting headache. Yamamoto and Yamamoto were just as uncomfortable as Takeshita Junichiro. They had been temporarily conscripted, and had given up on their original tasks to accompany him. It was not that no one from Japan could come, but even if they came, it would be useless. The Great Tang was developing too quickly. It changed every month. It would take a long time for people from Japan to familiarize themselves with the Great Tang's situation, let alone come and talk to the Great Tang's emperor. Yamamoto and Yamamoto often traveled between the Great Tang and Japan. At the same time, they collected all kinds of information in the Great Tang, and tried their best to learn as much knowledge as the Great Tang could teach them. Even though they knew that the Great Tang would not teach them advanced technology, they still earnestly learned what they could. It was mainly because of the teacher who was teaching. Even though he had already received instructions, he would still inadvertently say something that he shouldn't have said during the lesson. They also kept in touch with the students of the Great Tang. From time to time, they would hold banquets or poetry gatherings. They would continue to collect information and learn while having fun and chatting. Yamamoto and Yamamoto had worked very hard. When they held banquets, they were willing to spend money. No matter how much money they spent, as long as it could make the students of the Great Tang happy, they were willing to spend it. But usually, the two of them were very thrifty. They cooked their own meals and never went out to eat. If they went out to eat, they would spend more money. They gathered the people sent from Japan, and took turns to cook every day. They ate the most ordinary food according to the season. They ate whatever was cheap. At the same time, when they had free time, they would lead the other Japanese to do small business. Real business was not the kind of business that was swindling. Even if they wanted to, they did not dare to do so. With their intelligence, they could earn a few hundred strings of coins every month. Then they would subsidize it into the activity funds provided by the country. They continued to treat the students of the Great Tang to eat, drink, and play, also that they could obtain useful information from the mouths of others. Their clothes were usually made of linen. They only wore a few sets of pure cotton and silk clothes. They would only wear them during poetry gatherings to appear more presentable. They even found a mountainous area outside the Four Seas Academy and reclaimed it. They planted some crops and raised a few chickens. This way they could save a lot of money. However, even with such hard work, what would come eventually. Seeing that someone in the country had come up with a bad idea and had been seen through, the movement of the Great Tang's troops was unknown, and the Great Tang's attitude was unclear as well. The two of them were anxious like Takeshita Junichiro. Reward. Takeshita Junichiro said to Yamamoto, who was sitting in the carriage. He had just asked a citizen of Luzhou some questions, so it was time for him to pay. Yamamoto immediately produced 50 strings of coins, and passed it to Takeshita Junichiro. Then he turned around and continued to eat the free soup provided by the docks. He held a buckwheat biscuit with salted vegetables in it. He took a bite and chewed twice. It was delicious. At the very least, it was better than going hungry. More importantly, it was cheap. 1 copper coin could buy 3 caddies of buckwheat. If they were made into biscuits, they could last for a few days. They collected information along the way. At the same time, their information was sent to the ocean cloud in as they moved forward. Li Longji looked at the information on the paper and sighed. He said to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, "It's a pity. It's a pity for these people from Japan. In order to help their country, they did everything they could. They actually ate buckwheat biscuits and salted vegetables, and gave the money they had on them to passers-by. I heard that they worked hard in school. Why can't they give up their identity as Japanese? If they really didn't care about Japan, with their abilities, they would definitely have a good life in Tang. They might even be able to enter the top 100 of the billionaire list." Zhang Xiaobao had also read the information and said, "Yes, they're not bad. Every nation has people like them. Not only Japan, but Tang also has people like them. In fact, it's even better than Japan. I can respect their national spirit, but it doesn't mean that I'll let them go. There are many people like them. I think their performance is only so. Showing them respect is also a form of respect for myself. Yes. Wang Wan chimed in. They're doing all right. At least I'm quite satisfied with what they're doing. Fortunately, not all Japanese are like them. The Bushido spirit hasn't been fully formed yet. I won't give them that chance. In the front line of espionage, many people have died, and many of them died unjustly. However, there are still people who keep joining, just for a belief. Compared to Japan, Tang is not inferior at all. I know that if you two were in their position, you would definitely think of Tang. However, you two would be better than them and do better. Your family's spies also have to suffer like this outside? Where have they been sent to? Li Longji nodded and praised Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Then he asked about their intelligence personnel. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan immediately smiled and pursed their lips. Well, I won't ask anymore. You have your own intelligence system, and I have mine. However, my intelligence system is good in Tang, but it's hard to say if it's sent outside. After seeing what happened to the Japanese, I decided that as long as they work hard for Tang outside, whether they come back alive or stay in a foreign country forever, after a period of time, when their identities are exposed, I will specially set aside a piece of land for them and erect a monument for them. What do you think? Li Longji thought that there were people like Yamamoto and Yamanji who saved money outside, but then took out more money to give to others. For a moment, he also felt sentimental. Zhang Xiaobao took a deep breath and said, as long as the Tang Empire maintains an absolute advantage, this matter can be done. If the Tang Empire is overtaken by others one day, then even if some people die, they won't be able to obtain a title. In fact, even if they do something beneficial to Tang, because the officials of Tang are too corrupt, not only are they unable to protect them, they even want to capture them and force them to hand over all their money. That is the most lamentable thing. A country that doesn't even have the courage to admit that someone has done a good deed, and instead wants to arrest that person, forcing them to flee. This country is about to be destroyed. In truth, my request for the Great Tang is very simple. If our spy is exposed one day, he can confidently tell the other side that he is a spy for the Great Tang, but you are not allowed to touch him. Otherwise, the Great Tang will destroy you for me. Let alone killing me in broad daylight. Even if I were to reveal my identity and suddenly disappear from this place, you would still have to bear the wrath of the Great Tang. Isn't that a little too unreasonable? You went to other people's territory as an intelligence agent, and they found you. And you are telling them not to touch you? Li Longji said with a smile. Yes, that's what I mean. Being reasonable is a matter for weak countries. The strong don't need it, and what the strong say is right. Even if one day my army goes to other people's territory and kills them, but they are surrounded, they can only send the people back to me. The only thing they can do is to take the guns from our people and study them. They can't do anything to our people and turn a military conflict into a diplomatic incident. I allow them to protest, but I can only express my regret. Zhang Xiaobao said as he looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan was almost angered by Zhang Xiaobao's words. She glared at him and said, "You are talking about a strong country against a weak country. A strong country can't be strong just because you say so. You don't even have an aircraft carrier, so what can you do? Do you really think you are strong? Didn't you get better in the end? Do you know what it means to endure hardships?" I didn't say anything. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Wang Wan blankly. In the end, she rolled her eyes again. Li Longji was confused. He didn't know what the two of them were talking about. He felt that it was a mess, so he asked, "What is an aircraft carrier?" "Let me explain." Zhang Xiaobao didn't look at Wang Wan's eyes and quickly said, "An aircraft carrier is a ship that provides a combat supply platform for things that fly in the sky. For example, our hot air balloon can fly in the sky. If we attack other people and they have cannons by the sea, what do? We use a hot air balloon to attack. But it is impossible for a hot air balloon to fly to a place by itself. It is too far away, and the things inside will be burned up, so it can't fly to a place. What do? We use a ship to pull it, just like the one we have now. But for an aircraft carrier, it's not cost-effective to only use it to carry hot air balloons. So, we'll use planes instead. Then, we'll throw down powerful bombs from the planes. With a wave of attacks, the entire coast will be cleared. It would be even better if we could fly further and directly blow up the enemy's military camp. Li Longji suddenly understood. Then he said, "The two of you keep talking about planes, but why haven't I seen one yet? Where are the planes? Can't the Ministry of Works figure it out? Tractors are already available, so why can't we use planes?" Zhang Xiaobao was surprised. In theory, with tractors we should have planes. But theory is just theory. It is still a little difficult to turn it into reality. The main problem is that we don't have enough fuel. It is not easy to burn it up. Besides, our diesel engine is too heavy and can't fly in the sky. A speed of 120 miles per hour is too slow. We have to solve the power problem first. Let's try it next year and see how the fuel refinement is. There is also the problem of the diesel engine's weight and volume. We can't let it burn out, right? If the diesel engine in the tractor burns out, then so be it. At most, we can send a few more people to carry it. If it burns out while flying in the sky, then it will really be a disaster. Of course, the people on top can parachute down. But at the critical moment, if they jump down, the tactical objective will not be achieved, and it will be over. So, Your Majesty, you have to wait. Don't be anxious. Please don't be anxious. How can I not be anxious? Others have it, but I don't. Do you expect me to just take a beating and not fight back? Can a hot air balloon beat a plane? Is that aircraft carrier easy to build? When Li Longji heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he became even more anxious. He was still thinking about how awesome a certain country was. Now that he heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he immediately guessed. That country already had an aircraft carrier and a plane. He was not thinking about long-distance bombing. Instead, he was thinking about the two countries' ships encountering each other from afar. Then the country's plane would take off, while his country's hot air balloon would take off. The other country's plane used diesel engines, while his country still burned firewood. How could the speed be the same? If the wind was not favorable, and the wind was relatively strong, the hot air balloon would definitely not be able to outrun the tractor. At that time, the other country's plane would throw bundles of grenades at his ship, and his hot air balloon would be knocked down by the other country's plane before it could reach its destination. Not to mention fighting back, they would not even be able to parry the other country's plane. Zhang Xiaobao felt that he had been fooled too much. He swallowed his saliva and said, "Let's talk about the hot air balloon. Theoretically, the hot air balloon would not be able to defeat the plane, but there are always exceptions. If the range of the weapons is the same, other than the plane being more agile and faster, as long as it does not fly too high, the hot air balloon's machine gun would still be effective against it. According to what you said, standing on the ground and shooting at the sky would also be effective," Li Longji said angrily. Yes. This is the legendary air defense position." Zhang Xiaobao nodded and admitted embarrassedly. Who was the one who had been fooling around and talking about what would happen in the future? In the end, more than 10 years had passed, and the plane still had not appeared. Who asked him not to specialize in this? Wang Wan was the same. If there was a plane, she could use it, but it would be difficult for her to build it, even if it was a crappy first-generation plane. Unless the person who came with him was a team of talented students who studied seriously, there was no need for a doctorate. Even if it was a bachelor's degree, as long as they studied hard and built a batch of planes, the plane would have appeared long ago. A profession was a profession, and he had to admit defeat. However, his profession was not this. If you asked a technician to play economics with him, he would not be able to do it, right? That was the logic. Li Longji was still thinking about how to use the plane in war. He took a deep breath to calm himself down and asked, "What about the ship? It's just a mothership. It's easy to build, right? Let's build it first and talk about the rest later. We can't possibly not have a ship after we have a plane, right?" Ah. Zhang Xiaobao was stunned. Wang Wan pursed her lips and smiled. "When I say ship, I mean a ship used to transport the plane. Can you build one?" It's easier than a gunship, right? It doesn't have to be equipped with cannons, just a plane. Li Longji felt that an aircraft carrier was easy to build. Wasn't it just a ship? It did not need to fly in the sky. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head like a rattledrum. No, Your Majesty, it's not like that. You won't understand in such a short time. That thing, it's like this. Planes don't fly like hot air balloons on the ship. In theory, there can be such planes, but let's not think about it for now, okay? So the plane has to run on the ground first. It has to run very, very fast before it can fly. Running requires distance. When it's on the ground, we can even build a path of a few hundred kilometers for the plane to run on. What about on the ship? Then our aircraft carrier also needs the ability to travel long distances, and it also needs to be equipped with various. At this point, Zhang Xiaobao paused for a moment, then looked at Wang Wan excitedly and asked, Madam, what do you think is the shortest gliding distance for the lightest plane, the simplest plane? We don't need to build an aircraft carrier to be very powerful. We just need to build a plane. Our plane is not some heavy bomber, right? I said no. Does a country that only knows how to protest still need an aircraft carrier? Wang Wan turned her head and said, with an aircraft carrier, won't they have more confidence when they protest? If we first build an anti-gravity warship that can go to outer space at any time, who won't tremble when they protest? What I mean is our requirements are low now. When the plane comes out, a bigger ship, even with a hard plank, should be enough for the plane to take off, right? Zhang Xiaobao quickly followed Wang Wan's words. There was no other way. The concept of men being superior to women did not seem to appear in him and Wang Wan. Of course, the concept of women being superior to men was also impossible. Unless Wang Wan had a special hobby, but that was impossible. Wang Wan's expression eased a little. She frowned and said, Okay, then what do we need a plane for? You're already in the lead now. If you use a hot air balloon to fly up, other than staring, what can they do to you? Also, a hot air balloon needs much less fuel than a plane. It's fine as long as it can take off. Then it depends on the direction of the wind. Do you think that if we give you a large aircraft carrier and a few large bombers, without bombs, what's the difference between them and our current military strength? Of course, this means that with better technology, we can make more tractors. It's definitely not a problem to use them for farming. That's true, Your Majesty. Do you understand? We don't need that lousy ship now. What we need to do now is to make guns and train people to be more accurate. An aircraft carrier is not omnipotent. As long as the ground troops are strong, the final deciding factor of victory will be the ground troops. Only then will it be the occupation. Otherwise, even if it's airdropped, it will only be a ground battle. It's useless, at least for now. But Your Majesty, don't worry. We will let the Ministry of Works work hard on research. Perhaps in a few hundred years, an aircraft carrier or even a public carrier will be produced. Zhang Xiaobao thought about it and felt that Wang Wan's words made sense. Since they did not need the aircraft carrier to have too many functions, what would they need it for? In any case, their military strength was invincible now. In the end, Li Longji did not completely understand what Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were talking about. He was very depressed. A few hundred years later, maybe I can just fly to someone else's place and become their emperor. Everyone will submit to me, right? Your Majesty is wise, Zhang Xiaobao said. Wise. My life is gone, so what wise am I? Do you really think I can live forever? Why are you trying to scare me? Tell me about your plans. How are you going to deal with Takeshita Junichiro? What are we going to talk about when we meet this time? I still have a plan in mind. I'll have to cooperate with the two of you who can't make airplanes. Li Longji also knew that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were more anxious about the development of technology than he was, but they still did not have any good ideas. Therefore, he endured it for the time being and asked about his cooperation. Since they were not going to attack Japan, they had to achieve their goals. Seeing that Li Longji was no longer forcing him to build an aircraft carrier, Zhang Xiaobao finally heaved a sigh of relief. He was indeed rich in the past, but no matter how rich he was, it had nothing to do with an aircraft carrier. Even if you had the money to buy it, no one would sell it to you. By the time someone was willing to sell it to you, They would probably be able to perform space jumps. What was the point of having an aircraft carrier then? Fishing? Zhang Xiaobao smiled apologetically at Li Longji and said, Your Majesty, you don't have to meet Takeshita Junichiro personally. He's not qualified yet. You can continue to play in Luzhou. Leave the matter of meeting Takeshita Junichiro to Xiaobei. I'll give her a few instructions, and she'll know what to do. Don't worry, Xiaobei will definitely have no problem handling this kind of matter. We'll keep the 3 million taels of silver first. This is a huge sum of wealth. It'd be a waste if we don't take it. When it's time to deal with Japan, we'll have to deal with them. When the leaders of the 6 Zhao arrive, we'll make Japan do what they should do. For now, we just need to give them a little hope. I don't believe they'll dare to use force against Tang immediately. Li Longji's expression eased a little. He was still worried that the other country would come and attack them. If they had nothing, they would be bullied to death. After pondering for a moment, Li Longji said, There's something I don't understand. Xiaobao, Cuckoo, since we already have our own paper money, why do we still have to keep gold and silver? Xiaobao, you've said it before. It's nothing more than a basic currency problem. We have the technology, so why are we afraid that others will make trouble with the currency? Your Majesty, you're talking about this problem. How should I put it? If we say that gold and silver are important, they're really not that important. Indeed, we're keeping them for the time being because we're afraid of problems. However, even if we don't have these two things, the current currency system can't be shaken by others. However, these two things have another use. First, it's beautiful, especially the gold powder. When you use other things to decorate something, the effect won't be as good. It's really beautiful. Second, we need electronic components. We're still lacking a little. It's fine if we don't use these two things, but the efficiency is low. In the future, it won't be good if we don't use them. If the resistance is slightly higher, the things won't be able to withstand it. Then it'll become an electric furnace. You wouldn't want to use any electrical appliances in the future to suddenly emit smoke when you use them, right? Also, how should I put it? It means that in the future, we definitely can't use gold and silver. Furthermore, you don't have to care about the value of those things, and I don't care about the value of those things. However, I do care about other things. You can use them to bribe people, right? For example, you can build a big palace with gold. It'll be cool to lie down in it during summer, right? As Zhang Xiaobao explained, Wang Wan laughed again. When I die, I'll lie in a coffin made of gold. Does that mean that there's still hope for me to come back to life? You're always lying to me, and you haven't even built the plane yet. Do as you see fit. Don't look for me for small things in the future. Li Longji indeed didn't understand the importance of gold and silver in electronic components. After he finished speaking, he waved his hand and turned to leave. He must be doing those shameful things again. Zhang Xiaobao whispered to Wang Wan as he watched Li Longji leave. What is it that can't be seen? Wang Wan asked in surprise. Things about the continuation of life and inheritance of a race. It's hard to explain. Let me show you personally. Come, let's go to the back. Zhang Xiaobao pulled Wang Wan's hand. If I don't go, you're a hooligan. See, you admit it. As expected, it's shameful. Let's find a place where there's no one. Chapter 1130. While Li Longji, Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan were all resting, Xiaobei was extremely energetic. She had been waiting to meet Takeshita Junichiro. She had been sleeping for a long time just to show Takeshita Junichiro her face. As for the others, especially Li Longji, who Takeshita Junichiro really wanted to meet, it was impossible for them to answer him correctly. Only a child like Xiaobei who liked to talk to outsiders was willing to give him face. In truth, Xiaobei's main goal was to train herself. Even though she knew that she was already pretty good at speaking diplomatic terms in Great Tang, she still felt that there was still a gap. This was especially so when she was facing her brother and sister. They did not seem to need to think at all, and could casually answer her more profound diplomatic questions. In her opinion, speaking about her brother and sister was as smooth as eating noodles. It could be said that she could speak as soon as she opened her mouth, and there was no repetition. She did not know how her brother and sister trained. When she realized that she was the stupidest of the 9, Xiaobei felt a sense of crisis. She could not draw, shoot, commentate on sports, calculate, literature, or martial arts, and so on. In these situations, she felt that the only thing she could do was to stand at the very front. Only by shouldering all the external matters would she be able to balance out a little. Otherwise, wouldn't she become the most useless? Even if her brother and sister kept saying that her position was actually just as important. With such thoughts in mind, Takeshita Junichiro had a chance to come into contact with the upper echelons of Great Tang. Before dinner, Takeshita Junichiro saw Xiaobei. She was clearly a child in his eyes, but he could never treat her like a child because many people had already been taken advantage of. Takeshita Junichiro admitted that it would be very difficult to scheme against Xiaobei. Perhaps Xiaobei was not smart enough, but she was still competent in dealing with external matters. Takeshita Junichiro brought Yamamoto to the side courtyard of Heienjian restaurant. After a series of body searches, he saw Xiaobei sitting high up. At this time, Xiaobei had already changed her clothes. She was wearing the official attire of Great Tang's imperial court officials. If one had to find something different, it would be the pattern on her body, and the 2 kinds of fish bags on her body. But what did that count for? Even the emperor of the Great Tang, Li Longji, didn't care. Were they supposed to find any flaws in this matter, and use them to threaten Xiaobei? Takeshita Junichiro was well aware that as long as the Zhang family and the Wang family did not rebel, the emperor of the Great Tang, Li Longji, would not pursue the matter no matter what Xiaobei and the other children did. Even if they shouted that they wanted to rebel, Li Longji would not care. Who's next? Xiaobei's eyelids drooped as he asked the 3 kneeling Takeshita Junichiro. She didn't put on any makeup at all. Her naturally formed long Weiwei eyelashes made her look like a doll for sale. Takeshita Junichiro had the same thought. He really wanted to sell a doll, but when he heard what the doll said, he couldn't help but feel stifled. How could she not recognize him? He even got a lot of money from me. A citizen of this country, Takeshita Junichiro, greets Inspector Zhang. Takeshita Junichiro had no choice but to follow Xiaobei's words. Oh, so it's Ichiro. The other 2 look very familiar. Could it be that they are from a mountain temple? We're all familiar with each other. Quickly get up and speak. Don't stand on ceremony. Give them a seat. Xiaobei's drooping eyelids returned to normal. Her large eyes blinked in surprise. Li Longji, who was using a refraction mirror to look at the situation in a nearby room, immediately covered his mouth and laughed. He gave Zhang Xiaobao a thumbs up and whispered, "Amazing. He's good material to be an official." Zhang Xiaobao did not say anything and gestured for Li Longji to continue watching. Li Longji's gaze landed on the refraction mirror again. He saw someone bring over 3 small stools and place them beside Takeshita Junichiro and the other 2. Takeshita Junichiro and the other 2 had no choice but to thank him. Then they sat on the stools. However, they felt that it would be better to kneel. At least kneeling would be more comfortable. The stools were too short. They were 3 inches off the ground. If they curled their legs, it would be sullen. If they straightened their legs, they would probably be chopped off by Xiaobei's men. Helpless, they could only sit like that. It was even more uncomfortable than sitting at the doorstep of an angry wife. Seeing them sit down, Xiaobei asked in confusion, "Why are the 3 of you looking for me?" The 3 of them were already used to Xiaobei's obvious question. Takeshita Junichiro replied, "We are here on behalf of Japan to ask for punishment. We hope that the Great Tang will let Japan off. The previous matter was not arranged by our emperor. The emperor had no idea." "What matter? Crime?" "I don't know," Xiaobei asked blankly. "It's the matter of us Japanese participating in the Jiangnan Road and causing losses to the Great Tang. We are here to ask for punishment," Takeshita Junichiro explained. Even though he knew that Xiaobei was playing dumb, Xiaobei suddenly understood and said, "I don't think that you are guilty. There is no need for you to ask for punishment. When 2 countries are at war, everyone uses their own methods. What crime is there? Is that right?" "Not at all." Takeshita Junichiro and the other 2 widened their eyes. Fear appeared in their eyes. "Patrol Inspector Zhang, please don't say that. It's not a war between two countries. It's definitely not. The matter is like this. When people from other countries came to the Great Tang to cause trouble, a few people from Japan followed them. They hate the Great Tang and came here without the knowledge of our emperor. It's true that they are Japanese, but they don't represent Japan. When I returned, I had people arrest their family members, even if their family members don't know about it. Takeshita Junichiro was scared out of his wits. He explained nervously. He finally understood why it was difficult to do diplomatic work when one's military power was not strong. It's not a war? Xiaobei asked. Takeshita Junichiro shook his head vigorously. No, it's definitely not. It's a misunderstanding. We have already escorted them over. They are at your command. Oh, Xiaobei smiled embarrassedly. It seems that I misunderstood. Since it's a misunderstanding, why do we need to talk about escorting them? The ignorant can't be blamed. Since you kidnapped them, let them go. Don't affect the friendship between the two countries because of other people. Don't you agree? The three were confused by Xiaobei's words. Should they answer yes or no? This was a question that was very profound. If they did not answer correctly, it could easily lead to the destruction of their country. Takeshita Junichiro thought hard for a moment before finally saying, Patrol Inspector Zhang, I believe that regardless of whether they knew about this matter beforehand, this matter is related to them. Even if it's just the slightest bit of connection, they can't escape the consequences of their lax management. Thus, for the sake of the friendship and peace between our two countries, they must bear the corresponding responsibility. This is also an explanation to the people of the Great Tang. What do you think? What do I think? I've heard that the lives of your Japanese people aren't very good. Coincidentally, my Great Tang has invited important figures from the southwestern Zhao to come here to discuss matters and help resolve the problems of the lives of the people of the southwestern Zhao. Why don't you send someone over as well? Since you've already said that you want to give an explanation to the people of the Great Tang, I'll mention it first. The people of the Great Tang who were harmed need a small piece of land as compensation. This is the land of your Japan. We're not forcing you to give it to us but renting it out. You might be asking why renting your land would make up for the harm done to the people of the Great Tang, right? It's actually very simple. Because the people of the Great Tang who were harmed believe that renting a piece of land from your land will make up for the harm done. Do you understand? Xiaobei followed his brother and sister's request and organized his words for Takeshita Junichiro and the others. The three of them were even more confused. What was all this nonsense? But the main meaning was clear. They wanted to rent out a piece of land to the Great Tang as compensation for their defeat in the war. Ceding land was a very simple matter. Patrol Envoy Zhang, how much land will be ceded to you? Takeshita Junichiro nervously asked. It's not ceding, it's renting. We'll give you money. Let me think, it's about 1/20th, but the money we're willing to give is 1/10 of the income of your Japanese territory. We'll first rent it for 10 years, and after 10 years, we'll talk about it again. In truth, you're the one who's benefiting twice the price. Let's settle the matter of renting the land first. Which one of you should hurry back and invite your important people to the Great Tang? Together with the people of the southwestern Zhao, one of you can examine the development model of the Great Tang, and then accept our help in other aspects. I have a list. Once you've chosen the people you want to send back, give them to bring them back. We're very sincere. Whether it's our officials, people, or soldiers, we all fervently hope that they can come. I trust that you won't disappoint us, right? Xiaobei continued to speak according to his plan. In truth, he wasn't sure what the point of calling these people over was. Was he supposed to kill them? He trusted that his brother and sister wouldn't do such a thing. Otherwise, it would have been better to just call them. Takeshita Junichiro and the others could hear the threat in his words. If not all the people on the list came, the people of the Great Tang would be disappointed, especially the army. What they were least worried about was renting out 1/20th of the land. Any large island would be enough. Even if they gave it to the Great Tang, it wouldn't matter. In the future, if they had the ability to take it back, they would naturally take it back. If they didn't, they had no choice but to give it to them. All right. We'll immediately arrange for people to go back. What other requests does the great Tang have? Takeshita Junichiro saw that there was no need to resort to violence, so he agreed to the matter first. As for what would happen after the people were sent back, it wasn't something he needed to consider. Xiaobei seemed to be deep in thought, and then he shook his head. No, I can't remember. I think the next thing is to ask you what technology Japan needs. The people of the southwestern countries are coming to Luzhou to discuss the supply of technology, but it's not free of charge. You'll have to pay a price. The price isn't high, and it's mainly to help you, not harm you. Chapter 1131. 15 years ago, Takeshita Junichiro and the others would have believed Xiaobei's words. At that time, the great Tang was very easy to negotiate with. Sending some rotten fish and prawns as tributes could be exchanged for precious silk and porcelain. Seeing that the great Tang had advanced technology, they could also learn it. Moreover, if the great Tang Emperor was happy, he might even send craftsmen to Japan to teach them. But now that was impossible. Would the great Tang be so kind? Those worthless craftsmen with no status had now become treasures. As for technology, there was even less hope. Let alone military technology, even if they wanted to learn some basic technology, the great Tang would not teach them. Thus, when they heard Xiaobei say that he would help Japan, Takeshita Junichiro and the others were not happy. On the contrary, they couldn't help but tremble. What kind of rotten idea was Zhang Xiaobao coming up with now? Everything I said is true. Do you believe me? Xiaobei asked, looking as if he was waiting for others to acknowledge him. The three nodded. We believe, we believe. How could Patrol Envoy Zhang's words be false? Really? You believe me? I don't believe you, Xiaobei said to the three. While the three were flabbergasted, he continued. I don't believe why Big Brother and Big Sister would give you the technology, but it's true. There's also the people in the Southwest. We're not giving you the technology because we're afraid of you. We're sincerely helping you. However, the technology is not military technology, but smelting. The metal you sold us was too inferior, hindering our work. So I think that by helping you, we'll be helping ourselves. What do you think? Yes, yes. By helping us, you'll be helping yourselves. Patrol Envoy Zhang, you're truly too amazing. You've thought of this crucial point. With your abilities, it won't be a problem for each of you to become a governor of a province. The people under your rule will also have better lives. Takeshita Junichiro felt that Xiaobei's words made sense. Otherwise, why would he teach them technology without any intentions? Learning the smelting technology would probably require them to pay a great price, but it would be worth it. Hearing Takeshita Junichiro's flattery, Xiaobei's expression sank. He coldly snorted. You have bad intentions. Why do you say that? Takeshita Junichiro didn't know what he had said wrong. You said that each of us should be the provincial governor of a province? That's clearly harming us. Once the 9 of us are separated, we're nothing. Only when we're together can we be the real inspectors. What can I do if I'm the provincial governor alone? I don't even know how to calculate. You're trying to divide us. I'm very angry. My young heart has been hurt. What should I do? As Xiaobei spoke, he covered his heart with his hand. Indeed, he was very sad. Takeshita Junichiro was dazed for a moment. Ah. Patrol Inspector Zhang, don't be sad. We brought money with us when we came. When the time comes, your money is to compensate the people of the Great Tang who were harmed. What does it have to do with me? What's more, do you think that money can make up for the damage to your heart? However, I heard that it's okay to eat abalone. Dried abalone, the kind with 2 to 4 heads, is a folk recipe. I heard that Japan has it. Do you remember? I don't know if it's true. Xiaobei righteously refused the money and changed the topic, talking about dried abalones. Ah, dried abalones? The kind with 2 to 4 heads per caddy? I remember. It's true. It's true. However, there aren't many 2-headed and 3-headed abalones. After those things are dried, they become lighter. Takeshita Junichiro understood. Xiaobei was extorting him. He wanted to eat abalone. That's right. Who wouldn't want to eat abalone? The problem was that most people didn't even dare to think about it, much less eat it. It was too expensive. Xiao Bei's eyes widened a little. He said happily, "It's actually true. I didn't expect it. Actually, I don't want much. Just 100 or so caddies will do. You have a lot of four-headed abalone, right? Give me 1,000 caddies. I believe that we don't need to search Japan to gather enough, right?" Takeshita Junichiro calculated in his heart. He reckoned that they could really gather enough. Dried abalones weren't all harvested this year. There were also those that had been prepared and preserved in the past. He nodded. "All right. 100 caddies of two-headed and three-headed abalone, and 1,000 caddies of four-headed abalone. I'll immediately get someone to do it and bring it back to Patrol Inspector Zhang. It's a deal. I won't take your things for free. I'll use my skills in exchange. If you give me 1,000 caddies of abalone, I'll give you 10,000 caddies of willow weaving dolls. Don't look down on dolls. Not only do they have weaving skills, but they also have planting skills. After you take them, learn them seriously. Once you've learned them, you can plant willow trees and grass if you want to plant them. Isn't that awesome?" Xiao Bei said very fairly. He didn't take advantage of them. Takeshita Junichiro swallowed 2 mouthfuls of saliva. Clearly, he was shocked by Xiao Bei's generosity. He could have willow trees and grass in the future. Looking at his expression, Xiao Bei sighed like an adult and said, "Do you think that I'm lying to you?" "No, no one thinks that you're lying to us," Takeshita Junichiro hurriedly said. However, he felt deeply sorrowful in his heart. He knew that the other party was bullying him, but he had no choice but to play along. He just wanted to curry favor with the other party. Even if the other party was a child. Who asked the other party to have such a good brother and sister? If he really offended the other party with his words, perhaps before the Tang Empire's army was mobilized, the other party's guards would have already boarded a ship and attacked. Was there anything more sorrowful and helpless in the world than this? Not only was the other party powerful, but more importantly, it was the other party's will. If everyone in his country was wholeheartedly committed to war, the Tang Empire wouldn't dare to start a war lightly. How long would it take for the Tang Empire to kill all the Japanese? Would they still be able to kill more people? It was a pity that the Tang Empire's supporters of peace had been enduring time and time again. They always thought that if they took a step back, the Tang Empire would let Japan off. However, they didn't know that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had the ambition to destroy the country. When the Bohai Sea Commander-in-Chief's office's ocean-going fishing team came to his country to search for fish, the fishermen of his country had no choice but to hide far away when they saw them, even though they knew that they were very close to his country. Why? Wasn't it because the Tang Empire's supporters of peace were afraid that the fishermen would offend the other party and cause them to send the Bohai Sea Commander-in-Chief's office's fleet over? What was frightening wasn't the Tang Empire's gunboats, but their will as a strong country. When the fishermen of his country backed down, what they lost was not only the harvest they were about to gain, but also their confidence in their country. As he thought about it, Takeshita Junichiro's eyes turned red. Xiao Bei didn't know what the other party was thinking about. When he saw that Takeshita Junichiro was about to cry, he said angrily, "I just said that I didn't take advantage of you. Why are you crying? What's wrong with planting willow trees? What's wrong with planting grass? Isn't it good? Do you know how much the grass here is worth? 1 meter long and 1 meter wide, don't you?" How much? His train of thought was interrupted by Xiao Bei's words, so Takeshita Junichiro asked in confusion. Yamamoto and Yamamoto behind him were also puzzled. F***CK, it can be calculated based on the area? If one were to say how much a pile of grass was worth, they might be able to give a number. If there were too many, they could be used to make fires. Or, like the Tang Empire's current situation, they could be used to make dung and fill up the methane pools. Xiao Bei gestured with his hand and said, 60 copper coins for such a big place. Of course, there are special requirements for the grass as well. Don't believe me? The grass in the soccer field is also called kuju. Do you remember? The kind that many people in the Tang Empire like to play. The three of them nodded at the same time. I remember now. The grass there is 60 copper coins for a square meter? Yamamoto really didn't know that the grass in the soccer field was worth so much. It's not a square meter. A square meter is a square meter, and the perimeter is different. It's 60 copper coins. You don't know how to cultivate abalones, so it's just a lucky income. But you can plant grass. If you can grow grass that's more suitable for soccer, we'll buy it for 100 copper coins per square meter. Since you have nothing to do, why don't you study how to grow grass? No matter how expensive two-headed abalone is, you have to find it first. The grass won't grow legs and run away, right? Xiaobei guided the three of them to develop the idea of growing grass. Just as Takeshita Junichiro and company felt that it was a good idea, they suddenly realized that if grass was that easy to grow, why would Xiaobei give them the benefits? Furthermore, they were talking about exchanging a lot of abalones for willow weave dolls. Even if they wanted to learn techniques, they didn't need dolls that weighed more than 5,000 kilograms, right? When did willow weave dolls start to be weighed by kilograms? They weren't sold by the size. That. Patrolling Inspector Zhang, there's no need to talk about the transaction. We are willing, so let's talk about other matters. Takeshita Junichiro felt that he shouldn't be caught up in whether it was worth it or not. If others didn't want to give them dolls, would they dare not give them dried abalones? Other matters? I've already said it before, so I won't repeat it. Let's talk about something that I didn't mention before. You have quite a number of people on the ship, right? Xiaobei was too embarrassed to continue when he saw that the other party wasn't mentioning the willow weave. He changed the topic. Takeshita Junichiro nodded. Yes, there are people escorting the goods. It's good that there are people. How about this? Let's organize a few soccer matches. Apart from the people who report back, there's nothing else to do. We can use it for fun, alright? Xiaobei said, following the idea of the lawn earlier. Takeshita Junichiro and the others were more familiar with this. In the past, Tang Dynasty liked to compete with others in various things. There were boat races, polo, hunting, and so on. The only thing they were worried about was what they would lose if they lost. Hence Yamamoto asked, "Are there any stakes?" No. Xiaobei shook her head. What else can you use as a stake? However, if you win each match, you'll be rewarded. I'll pay for the rewards, and I won't charge entrance fees. It's not my place to ask for money from the people of Luzhou. This is purely for fun. I don't mean anything else, alright? Otherwise, all of you can't go back. There's no point in staying here, right? When they heard Xiaobei's words, the three of them were suspicious again. Since when was Xiaobei so easy to talk to? Why would she do something that did not benefit her? The three of them looked at each other. They could not see any clear hints from the eyes of the people around them. It was as though they did not understand anything. There's no harm to us? Takeshita Junichiro asked with uncertainty. Xiaobei shook her head vigorously. Absolutely not. Do I look like a liar? If that's the case, we'll participate. Takeshita Junichiro made up his mind. Chapter 1132. The competition was scheduled for the next morning. Takeshita Junichiro and the other two returned to the courtyard of the inn with a special mood. Xiaobei happily joined up with the others and began to whisper to each other. Even Li Longji couldn't find a chance to praise him. Xiaobei was probably immune to praise that didn't have any substantial benefits, even if the person praising him was the current emperor. Xiaobao, what do you think your sister is going to do? Li Longji could not praise Xiaobei, so he could only turn to ask Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao did not care about his younger brother and sister's schemes at all. He was waiting for the important figures of the various families and the imperial family in Japan to come over, especially the hardliners. He wanted to send the main leaders to Tang and stay there for 3 to 5 years. Japan would completely fall. When he heard Li Longji's question, he casually replied, I think Xiaobei wants to get some benefits. That's what I'm asking. Li Longji emphasized his purpose. Ask Xiaobei. Or keep watching. You'll be able to see something. Zhang Xiaobao still did not give the answer Li Longji wanted. In fact, he did not know what his sister was going to do, and he was not in the mood to think about it. Li Longji was depressed. After saying that he had to go back to deal with the country's affairs, he got up and left. Early the next morning, the people near Luzhou's provincial capital headed to Luzhou's stadium in groups. Luzhou's stadium was well built. It covered an area of 1 million square meters. It sounded big, but in fact it was just a square that was 1,000 meters long. There was a reinforced concrete building in the middle. There were several track and field events in it. The football field for the competition was also there. However, due to the lack of technology, there was no ceiling above, and there was no automatic opening and closing glass ceiling. In fact, it was not entirely because the technology could not keep up. If they did not care about the cost and invested manpower and material resources like the research on cannons and steam engines, it could still be achieved. However, the cost was too high, and it was not cost-effective. If they had the energy, they might as well use it on loading and unloading goods at the docks. In the middle of the stadium was the football field, and naturally, there was a circle of grandstands around it. Because there was no projection technology, and it was impossible for people to use binoculars, the furthest place from the grandstand was only 150 meters away from the center, and more than 50 meters away from the track outside. Moreover, the grandstand at the back was not particularly high. It was only 4 meters high. Just like Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's gymnasium, it was empty below. It could be used as a shop and a changing room. The reason why it covered an area of 1 million square meters was mainly because it was located outside the gymnasium. The other areas were all small fields. There were football, basketball, badminton, and even billiard tables for people to play. 2 copper coins could be used to play for 2 hours. He didn't expect to make much profit, as long as it was enough to cover the maintenance costs of the venue. Apart from the largest sports stadium, there were also many other places in Luzhou that were specially provided for children to play. Zhang Xiaobao had always felt that countries that were good at sports might not necessarily be good at national strength. However, countries that were at war or had weak national strength would definitely not be good at sports. Children who were supposed to receive all kinds of training during their normal development period would have a great impact on their health if they could only stay in the school to study every day. Therefore, they had to invest when it was necessary. Moreover, they did not need much money. More importantly, the money used did not need to be paid by the imperial court. The merchants who could provide all kinds of things for the school would take care of it. Therefore, the venue was easy to set up. The merchants only needed to find carpenters and craftsmen to help make some sports equipment and put it there for the children to use. As for the physical training of the adults, it seemed that they did not need it. The adults all had jobs. Most of them were involved in agriculture and handicrafts. They did not need any equipment to train their bodies. What made Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan feel gratified was that the things made for the children were placed there openly. There had never been a case of vandalism. This was an era where morality still existed. From the officials to the common people, no one dared to break the law righteously. Junichiro Takeshita and the other Japanese were also very envious when they came over. They watched as the children who came over today took a card and went to a house next to them to get a football. Then they formed a group and ran to the field next to them. Their eyes showed sadness. The better the children of Great Tang lived, the worse it seemed to the children of their own country. It was about the same in the past, but now, the children of their own country seemed to be living even worse. Many children had to help the adults do things. They did not have the time to play in peace, let alone have a special venue and equipment. 2 copper coins for 2 hours. Do the children of your country have to pay to play? Takeshita Junichiro asked Xiaobei, who was beside him, when he kicked a soccer ball that was accidentally kicked by a child back to the other party. However, he realized that the ball was kicked even further away. Xiaobei nodded. Of course. The maintenance of the venue costs money. Takeshita Junichiro observed carefully and asked, "Why don't I see any children paying?" "Because the children don't have money," Xiaobei answered. "Then how do they pay?" Takeshita Junichiro asked gloomily. "Cards. The cards they hold have money on them. There are patterns printed on them. How much money do they need? When the time comes, they'll pay the merchants who gave them the money. It's a rule that the stadium collects money. It's a benefit that the children don't have to fork out their own money. There's no conflict." As Xiaobei spoke, he waved at a child. When the child ran over, he took the card from the child and showed it to Takeshita Junichiro and the others. As expected, there were patterns that represented 1 copper coin to 3 copper coins on the card. The patterns were very detailed. At the very least, the children would not be able to draw it themselves. There was a small line of words at the bottom that said Children of Great Tang Luzhou. It meant that the adults had no use for this card. Even if they took the card away from the children, they would not be able to find a place to spend it. Takeshita Junichiro handed the card back to the child who was waiting there. He asked Xiaobei, "Can we buy anything with this card? If so, what if a skilled craftsman draws this card for the child?" "Yes, we can buy anything as long as we have enough money. The child doesn't have to spend it himself. He can buy rice and noodles for his family. However, a child only has that much money a month. The amount of money they get depends on their academic performance and other skills. The best child in Luzhou can get 300 copper coins a month at most. Not only are they good at their studies, but they're also good at other things. If you spend 300 copper coins a month, you might be able to avoid detection once or twice. However, if you spend too many times, you'll be discovered. Once you're discovered, the consequences will be severe." Xiaobei explained confidently. "What if I make it and sell it?" Takeshita Junichiro was unconvinced. "How can the child buy it if he doesn't have money? Sell it to the adults and let the child spend it. You can try to make it and sell it. You have to ensure that the people you choose to sell it to won't catch you on the spot. More importantly, you have to ensure that their child won't tell the other children. If you're caught, you'll be killed for illegally minting money," Xiaobei said disdainfully. Takeshita Junichiro did not continue to discuss this matter. He believed that Xiaobei had already considered everything that he could think of. He changed the topic and chatted as they entered the stadium. As soon as they entered the stadium, Takeshita Junichiro and the others heard cheers that sounded like a tsunami. A banner that welcomed the Japanese football team was hung on the stands facing the entrance. They could feel the intense enthusiasm. This made the Japanese people feel that Luzhou's attitude toward them was not affected by the incident that happened some time ago. Takeshita Junichiro said to Xiaobei with an embarrassed expression on his face, "Inspector Zhang, I didn't expect the people of Luzhou to understand the harm that our people have caused to your country a few days ago." "Understand? Understand what? Today is a football match. It's a competitive event, and it has to be sportsmanlike. It doesn't involve military affairs or politics. Don't be fooled by the fact that they're welcoming you now. They're welcoming the football match. If Japan doesn't do a good job, they might be welcoming you here while the army is mobilizing outside. Sportsmanlike spirit knows no boundaries. As long as it's related to sports, there's peace between our countries. If something bad happens in diplomacy, we can use sports to communicate and improve our understanding of each other, especially the perception of the people," Xiaobei solemnly told Takeshita Junichiro and the others. Of course, there was something in her heart that she did not say out loud, and that was that the spirit of sports did not discriminate between countries, but the people involved in sports had nationalities and ethnic affiliations. However, she would not say this out loud. How could she lie if she said it out loud? Takeshita Junichiro and the others did not know this. When they heard Xiaobei's words, they could not help but feel inspired. They looked like they were in a daze. Then, the few people led by Takeshita Junichiro became vigilant again. It was not that they found something wrong with Xiaobei's words, but they had been deceived to the point that they had some conditioned reflexes. Believing what the Zhang family and the Wang family said was a very scary thing. Not believing it was actually very scary. In any case, as long as they had any relationship with the Zhang family and the Wang family, they had to be extremely vigilant. Even so, it was very easy to fall into a trap. It was impossible to guard against it. "Let your people enter the locker room. We've provided you with jerseys and shoes. The numbers are arranged according to your body size. When you go in, you'll see the place where your name is written. There are things that belong to that person inside. If you can't read, you can ask. Next, let's focus on enjoying the exciting match. Don't think too much. Sports is pure and should not involve other aspects." Xiaobei did not care about what the other party thought. She continued with the introductions and led Takeshita Junichiro, and the others who were not participating in the match to the spectator seats. On the other hand, Takeshita Junichiro was taken aback. When he went back yesterday, he had arranged for 30 people who knew how to play football. Today he had yet to decide which 11 to send on the field first, and was even more worried about what kind of clothes to wear. In the end, the other party had already prepared clothes according to their figures. It looked like all 30 people were prepared. Such a perfect and accurate intelligence system was very scary. Sports was very simple, but things outside the field were not simple at all. Chapter 1133. While Takeshita Junichiro and the others were admiring the intelligence systems of the Zhang family and Wang family, and trying to figure out the purpose of Xiaobei's disclosure of this matter, the members of both teams had already changed their clothes. When the Japanese team came out of the locker room, Takeshita Junichiro felt a wave of dizziness. Other than the number printed on the team's clothes, there were also words in colorful patterns printed on them. Wonjo Juyo. Takeshita Junichiro read out the words on the clothes very quickly. He turned his head to look at Xiaobei in confusion and asked, "What is Juyo?" "Ah, you're asking about the words?" Wonjo Juyo is a company in Wonjo called Juyo. They are in the leather business, and now they mainly sell leather shoes. There are men's shoes, women's shoes, and children's shoes. They are very famous, but, as Xiaobei explained with a smile, he looked down at himself and realized that everything he was wearing was made by his family's company. He could only look elsewhere and suddenly pointed happily. "Do you see the person sitting 20 seats away on the left? He is wearing Juyo leather shoes. The workmanship is excellent and the taste is outstanding. Their advertising slogan is walking on the waves, walking on Juyo. It is a very good company that makes shoes. The Tang people are proud to have a pair of Juyo shoes." Takeshita Junichiro nodded slowly and glanced at Xiaobei. What he meant was, "Since it's good, why don't you wear Juyo shoes?" Xiaobei's comprehension ability was still very strong. When he saw Takeshita Junichiro's gaze, he smiled sweetly and said, "I also want a pair, but I can't. Their production is limited. It's better to give it to people who need it more. Watch the game. Your Japanese football team is now sponsored by Wonjo Juyo shoes." There was still some time before the game began. At the very least, the football players from both sides had to be introduced by the commentator. The cadence of the voice echoed in the stadium, and the applause and cheers of the audience could be heard from time to time. The commentator was dedicated, and so was the audience. No matter which country they were from, there was no need to know them. Once the commentator introduced them, he would first give a shout and show enthusiasm. This finally made Yamamoto and the others feel the magnanimity of a strong country. Of course, this magnanimity was limited to sports games. Takeshita Junichiro, who was affected by the shouts of the audience, shook his head and finally remembered that his purpose was not to watch the game. Winning or losing was not important. He then asked Xiaobei for advice. "Patrol Envoy Zhang, where did this sponsorship come from?" "It's just money. Their clothes, shoes, and boards will all be paid by Wonjo Juyo shoes. There's also their appearance fee. It's not a small sum of money. You can use it as a reward or for training. The condition is that as long as you have a competition, you have to wear clothes with their company's advertisement printed on them. I've thought about it. After today's competition ends, I'll specifically provide training assistance to your team members. When you go back, your standards will be improved a lot. When you go back to Japan, you can win more matches. Remember to get them to train harder when you go back. Because in the future, our Great Tang will often compete with your Japan. If you win, we'll give you points, and you can use those points to trade for technology in our Great Tang. It'll be the same as the workers you send to the Great Tang, and you'll even get more points." Xiaobei kept gesturing with his hands, drawing a big picture for Takeshita Junichiro and the others. Takeshita Junichiro did not care much about the sponsorship. He did not think that he could get much money from it. What Xiaobei said next was what attracted him. "If we win against you, we'll get points to trade for technology?" "Yes, that's right. It sounds nice, but it's not easy. I don't believe that you Japanese can beat us. When the time comes, The teams we send over are all teams that have played in our great Tang and won in the end. They're 1 in a million. It's the same for the other sports like billiards, badminton, and so on. Xiaobei said proudly. He had a look of contempt on his face. Yes, yes. The people of your country are extraordinary. However, we'll work hard as well. Takeshita Junichiro flattered him, but he did not admit defeat. I'll tell you the various sports later, and I'll also tell you the rules. Get someone to bring it back. It's starting. Look, Lu Zhou's team is going to score. Aya, won't they score if they add more spin? Stupid. The ball flew over the crossbar. It was so close. As Xiaobei spoke, he suddenly stopped talking about the points. Instead, he became excited about the competition. Takeshita Junichiro was startled. He looked at the field. As expected, someone threw a ball from behind their goal. He guessed that the ball was kicked. As for where the shot came from, he did not know. There was no replay. However, he could guess that it was kicked by the opponent's forward, number 11. Only number 11's position was suitable. Number 11 did not have a captain's armband, and the words Luzhou Ocean Line were printed on his shirt. He was probably either from a fleet or a shipyard. When Takeshita Junichiro looked at the formations on both sides, he could not help but feel worried. Great Tang's formation was the most common 4-4-2 formation he had ever seen. His team, on the other hand, had a 2-3-4-1 formation. It was a very strange formation. Who arranged for 2 defenders? When he thought about the formation, Takeshita Junichiro looked for one of the people he brought over. He gave a few instructions, and that person immediately left. Shortly after, that person returned with another person. You arranged the formation? Takeshita Junichiro asked the person who came after him. Yes, it's me, that person replied. Can you explain the wonders of this formation? Takeshita Junichiro watched as the opponent's left flank kept breaking through. Then, they formed a shot that was narrowly saved by their own goalkeeper as he rolled and crawled. He asked the person who came after him. Your Excellency, my formation is 5-3-2. It focuses on defense and it's a defensive counterattack. The 2 outstanding forwards are relatively skilled, and they run fast. The person who acted as the coach was so anxious that he was sweating when he saw the situation on the field. Oh, Takeshita Junichiro nodded and praised. Not bad. The 5 defenders are in a double defensive line, and the 3 midfielders are good at seizing the opportunity. They rushed forward and put a lot of pressure on the opponent. One of the forwards even ran to the side of the opponent's small penalty area and looked for an opportunity to break through behind the 4 defenders. Good, very good. The coach sweated even more. No matter how stupid he was, he could understand the meaning behind Takeshita Junichiro's words. His team's formation was scattered, so why did the forwards rush over? What was there to talk about with the other team's goalkeeper? Without waiting for the coach to explain, Takeshita Junichiro said, The first half is already like this. Just make do with it. During the break, I don't care what methods you use, but you must stabilize the formation. Don't make a fool of yourself. Hey. The coach lowered his head and hurried back to the side of the field. He shouted and even made hand gestures as he tried to save some face. However, the 2-3-4 formation was quite exciting. When the players pressed forward, apart from the forwards who could not pass the ball, the other 9 players could still fight, pass the ball, and shoot. Moreover, they shot quite a number of times, and they often broke through the midfielders of Luzhou's Hainan Airlines team. Luzhou's Hainan Airlines team also showed off their individual skills. When the defender received the ball in front of the small penalty area, he dared to dribble and rush toward the opponent's goal. He used the Xiaobao spin, the pendulum pass, the bicycle step, and the oxtail flick. He used everything he had the chance to use. It showed how hard he had been practicing his skills. Moreover, as long as the players of the Hainan Airlines team reached the Japanese team's half of the field, they would definitely do a somersault to throw the ball. One was high, and the other was far. Whenever they encountered the ball, they would directly raise their feet and shoot at 0 degrees. They did not pass the ball at all. They just tried their best to spin toward the Japanese team's goal. The enthusiasm of the audience was aroused. Whether it was attacking or defending, the rhythm was so fast. when they fought for the ball, except that no one deliberately committed a foul. It was also so intense. The only regret was that they had not scored a single goal until now. Finally, the forward who rushed to chat with the opponent's goalkeeper made a reverse offside. To be precise, it was not a reverse offside. When the defender of the Hainan Airlines team in front of him saw the opponent kick the ball straight toward his chest, he did not use his chest to stop the ball. Instead, he did a difficult 360-degree kick with his left leg as the center and his right leg as the radius. If he did not get the ball, it would not matter. The goalkeeper could catch it. Even if the opponent's forward got the ball, it would be offside. However, his leg touched the ball. Then, the ball changed direction and rolled to the foot of the opponent's forward who was on the same horizontal line as him. The goalkeeper had already lost his position. Just like that, the forward got the ball. First, he kicked the ball to the goalpost more than 7 meters away from the goal. After it bounced back and deceived the goalkeeper again, he dribbled the ball 2 steps and carefully sent the ball into the goal. Takeshita Junichiro looked at the ball that entered the goal and listened to the various sounds made by the audience. He was dumbfounded and muttered, "That works?" The fans from Japan were happy. Although they were not here to watch the game, they naturally had to cheer since the ball had entered the goal. However, before their happy mood could gradually subside, Luzhou and Hainan Airlines coordinated with each other 15 seconds after the kickoff and scored with a long-distance kick. The audience once again made all kinds of sounds, making the Japanese people suddenly feel that happiness came too quickly. Before they could savor the excitement in detail, it was gone in the blink of an eye. They did not know if they should feel relieved or helpless. The game on the field was still going on. The rhythm was still as breathtaking. The offside players were offside, and the dribbling players were dribbling. By the end of the first half, both sides had scored 4 goals each. 2 goals were scored by the Nine Wanderers first, and the other 2 were scored by the Hainan Airlines first. However, no matter who scored first, they caught up within 3 minutes, making the spectators feel excited. How can this be? Takeshita Junichiro was very puzzled. Until the second half, when both sides scored 3 goals each, the entire game ended in a 7-7 tie. He still could not understand when the football players of his country had become so powerful. Takeshita-kun, you Japanese people really can't be taken lightly. I must talk to the people of the Hainan Airlines team. They're too unreasonable. After training for so long, they actually played to a tie. Xiaobei said to Takeshita Junichiro regretfully. Takeshita Junichiro was happy. At the same time, he had more doubts. He could not stop thinking. He kept feeling that something was wrong. Chapter 1134. Putting aside the doubts in the hearts of Takeshita Junichiro and the other leaders, the other Japanese spectators who followed them here did not care about the other problems in the result of the tie. They only knew that the Japanese on their side were not bad. They usually played a few games in the country, but they did not expect that the Tang Empire could actually play to a draw with a specially trained local team. It was not easy, and it could be said that they had raised the prestige of the country. Even though the members of the Wonjo Julo Group's Japanese team were as tired as dead dogs, they could not hide the joy in their hearts. After entering the lounge, they lay on the ground or chairs, panting heavily, and their faces were filled with the joy of victory. Yes, victory. For them, a tie was a victory. A tie was so difficult and so unbelievable. Who did not know that the first football team of the Tang Empire was organized by Xiaobei and the other 9 people? The must-win team was famous at that time. Luzhou was the foundation of the Zhang family and the Wang family. How could the football team be bad? Usually they would train again, but in the end they still tied with them. This showed that they were very capable. When they returned to the country, they would spread the news. Beautiful women and money could be expected. Just as the Japanese team members were thinking about the good things, for people came in from outside. The first person smiled sincerely and found the captain of the Japanese team. He held the other party's hand and kept thanking him. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. I am the Deputy Minister of the Public Relations Department of the Wonjo Julo Group. On behalf of the Julo Group, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to you. Our Jolo Group's football team has played against the Hainan Airlines team many times in the past, and we have never tied. Every time, we lose at least 3 goals. The captain of the Japanese team was confused. What nonsense was this? What language was the other party speaking? After thinking about it carefully, he roughly understood. This football team that the Wenzhou Jolo Group spent money to set up had always lost to Luzhou's Hainan Airlines team. Not to mention winning, they had never even tied. He and the others had helped them a lot. Therefore, the captain expressed his modesty in a very fluent Tang language. If one was not fluent in the official language of the Tang Empire, one would not dare to come to the Tang Empire. The deputy head of the Jiuyu Group's public relations department was full of praises again. When the other party was about to fall asleep, he said what the other party wanted to hear the most. We, the Jiuyu Group, have decided to continue our long-term sponsorship of you. Even if you return to Japan, we will send you all the equipment of the players. Here are 10,000 strings. Take a look. While speaking, the deputy minister paused and reached out to take a box from the arms of the person next to him. He opened it, revealing the 100-string notes inside. 1 luo, according to the description of 10,000 strings of coins, should be 100 notes. He gave it to the captain of the Japanese team and said with a smile, "It's not a lot. It's just a token of appreciation. The main reason is that I didn't bring enough money when I came over. Another reason is because you guys aren't famous yet. 10,000 strings of cash is your salary. Someone will give you another sum of money later. It's an additional reward for your team members' goals. In the next few days, you guys will train in Luzhou. I'll find someone to be your teacher, teach you more skills, and ensure your diet. You don't have to worry about the cost. Everything will be paid by the Jiuyu Group. You only need to do 2 things. One is to train, and the other is to play games. I'll arrange for someone to play games with you so that you can improve in the games. If you have any additional requests, you can tell me. I'll do whatever I can. What do you think?" The other 3 people who came with the deputy minister were also waiting for the other party's reply with expectant faces. As the temporary captain of the football team, Sher was dumbfounded at this moment. He stared blankly at the money in the box. His throat moved up and down, and he kept swallowing. His hands trembled uncontrollably, and for a moment, he could not say a word. After waiting for a while, the deputy minister asked tentatively, "Do you think it's okay? It's the first time we're working together. It's indeed wrong to give you less money, but it's also the first time you're helping us play games. It's important to see if you can stabilize your results. After a few more games, if you can always play at this level, we'll add more money. After you return to China, you can play games with other domestic teams. If you win, you can also get the money. Think about it. If it's really not okay, we'll have to find someone else to cooperate with." "Okay, who said it's not okay? It's just too okay. 10,000 strings of cash is not a small amount, and a little too much. We just played a tie. It's really embarrassing to take so much money." Sher was so excited that his face was flushed, and his hands trembled more and more. He nodded repeatedly, afraid that the other party would take the money back. 10,000 strings of cash. How many things in Tang Dynasty could he buy? He didn't need to sell his own domestic things at a low price to get an income. And it was so easy to get it. If he didn't cooperate, he would be a fool and betray his country. Putting the box in his arms, Koizumi Shirji didn't care about the tiredness of having just finished a game. He rushed out with the box. After a little search, he found Takeshita Junichiro and others accompanied by Beckham. While Takeshita Junichiro was puzzled and stunned, he greeted him. "Takeshita-kun, here work." He couldn't speak normally. Takeshita Junichiro came over with a puzzled expression. Hearing what Sher said just now and seeing the 10,000 strings of cash in the box, he was also happy at first, but then deep worry grew in his heart. He couldn't guess what Xiaobei was going to do. It was absolutely impossible to say that because the Japanese came to Tang Dynasty to make trouble, Tang Dynasty was afraid, so they sent Xiaobei to show goodwill in another way. The people of Tang Dynasty were not so easy to talk to, and Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were not so cheap. Their fleet was not a decoration, and their army mobilization was not a joke. Even if it was a slap and a sweet date? But before the slap completely fell, first stuffing the date into the mouth, and then slapping it into the stomach? The date stones would hurt the cheeks, and the dates of Tang Dynasty were not so delicious. With a sigh, Takeshita Junichiro took the box of money and carried it to Xiaobei, who was waiting for him to finish so that he could continue to accompany him. He said to Xiaobei, "How can this be? It's the honor of the Japanese football team to be able to play a game with you. How can we take your money? We're too polite, right? Please take it back." "Take back what? It's not like I gave you the money. The Jiuyu group gave you the money, so why are you giving it to me? It's only 10,000 strings of cash, and I don't care about it. Just take what I gave you. Remember to train hard and play every game seriously. Take the money and solve the problem." Xiaobei waved his hand and refused directly. Takeshita Junichiro still couldn't put his heart at ease and asked softly, "Is there any conspiracy?" "What do you mean? What conspiracy do you think there is? First set a trap for you and cheat your family of money? Your football team can't sell the things in Tang Dynasty for 10,000 strings of cash even if you go bankrupt, right?" Xiaobei asked in surprise. "It can't be sold, definitely can't be sold." Takeshita Junichiro nodded affirmatively. "You really don't have any other plans? You won't use this opportunity to take our lives?" Xiaobei rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, "Do I need to give you money to take your lives? Can't I just do it directly? Don't think too highly of yourself. You're not even worth a fart. If I didn't feel bored with your status, do you think I would receive you? Are you worthy?" Not worthy at all. Then I'm relieved." Takeshita Junichiro raised his hand and used his sleeve to wipe the sweat on his forehead as he let out a long breath. After being scolded, he felt much better. At the same time, he was very grateful to Xiaobei. He had asked so bluntly, and it was good that Xiaobei didn't beat him up. Xiaobei probably looked down on him, so he was magnanimous. Xiaobei waved his hand. "Let's go outside and watch the badminton and billiards games. You guys learn from them and arrange good people. In a few days, they will also compete with us. I'll introduce different sponsors to you. The people who come this time, if you like something that you can use, buy it. I'll make the decision to waive your export tariffs. Consider it a gift to you. When you go back, help me advertise. I, Xiaobei, am a good person, understand?" Takeshita Junichiro nodded repeatedly and responded with an exaggerated smile. Understood. Patrol Inspector Zhang is a good person, a good person. I wonder if I can buy a small generator to light the lamps? No. Why don't you say that you want to buy a few cannons to shoot birds? It's better to light your fish oil lamps. It's easy to get injured if you use a generator. Let's go outside. I get annoyed when there are too many people. It's noisy and my ears are buzzing. Without hesitation, Xiaobei rejected Takeshita Junichiro's suggestion and walked out of the stadium. Takeshita Junichiro and the others naturally followed closely behind. They thought of all kinds of possibilities in their hearts, and the worry between their brows couldn't disappear. After dinner, after settling the Japanese people, Xiaobei ran excitedly to Li Longji, who was chatting with Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, to show off his achievement. "How is it? Uncle Emperor, aren't we awesome?" Xiaobei ran into the room, grabbed Li Longji's sleeve, and kept shaking it. "Awesome. Even now the Japanese people are still confused. They don't know what you're up to. It seems that your ability to deceive people is getting better and better." Li Longji stretched out the thumb of his other hand and praised Xiaobei. He already knew what Xiaobei and the others had done during the day. Xiaobei shook Li Longji's arm twice and said discontentedly, "What do you mean by deceiving people? We're helping the Japanese, okay? Giving them money can promote the development of their sports. And at the same time, let the Japanese people know more about the good things of the Tang Empire, and have the opportunity to use them. I suddenly feel that we're very kind, right?" Yes, the 9 people of the Tang Empire, the 10 patrol inspectors, are all very kind people. It can be said that we're repaying the Japanese's evil with good. It's not easy. Li Longji continued to praise them, but in his heart, he felt sad for the Japanese people. He estimated that in a few years, Japan would cease to exist. Looking at the smiling Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan sitting next to him, Li Longji felt even more emotional. He knew that as long as the people in Japan who were named came to the Tang Empire, Japan would be finished. The country would be divided into pieces, and then a large number of Tang people would go there to travel. The merchants who had previously gone to Japan would also buy land and hire the Japanese people to farm and do other things. Xiao Bei and the other children would also use money to tempt the Japanese people and set up various sports teams. Then they would create sports stars and promote the things of the Tang Empire. Naturally, the price would be even higher. It wouldn't be long before every Japanese person would feel proud of the things of the Tang Empire and fight to buy them. Even if Japan also had similar things, and the price was lower, as long as the Japanese had enough money, they would be willing to buy the things of the Tang Empire. It seemed that using the things of the Tang Empire would make one's status different. The plan to conquer Japan within a year was about to be realized. How could a country that had been divided and its thoughts in chaos not be divided? Things would be simple in the future. Chapter 1135. After Takeshita Junichiro, Yamamoto, and Yamamoto returned to the inn where they were staying, they gathered together to ponder. The three of them were traumatized by the Zhang family and the Wang family. Although this cooperation seemed to be good, they could not completely relax. If it was someone else who offered to provide money, they would be willing to believe it. However, the other party's identity made them have to be cautious, even if the other party was still a child. Even if the child was not under the command of the elders of the family. Back then, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were also children, and many people did not care. The people who did not care included not only the people of the surrounding countries, but also their own Japan, the high officials of the Great Tang, and the various aristocratic families. In the end, they slowly grew up and obtained a position that was close to half of the Great Tang. Looking back, Yaya learned to speak, pushing 8 hands, urging the upper reaches of the county. Can you remember, the water and clouds were quiet. The reeds were just standing. Love was written in spring and autumn. Looking back, Huayuan was the first county, the roads were clear, and the border was the province. Looking back yesterday, the waves became a building, joining hands to fight against the enemy, strength to stop the tide. Looking back, the rain of arrows, the neighing of horses and the chirping of eagles, there was no need to worry about the border. The sword competition in Mount Hua, the sound of guns and cannons. Looking back, the 9 provinces of the Great Tang, alone at the top, the frustrated sighs, the wood has been turned into a boat. Time does not stay, a word does not stop. Things were like this. When they were young, they did not care, but when they wanted to care, they realized that there was no other way. If they could go back to that time, the first thing they would do was to find people to kill the Zhang family and Wang family in Sanshui County, Zhuangzi. They could not let the two grow up. Therefore, even though Xiaobei was young, in order to not regret it again in the future, they had to take it seriously, even if they could not see what the other party was scheming. Thus, Takeshita Junichiro and the other two started to speculate about this matter. However, how could they understand this kind of economic invasion? It involved the overall situation of a society's development. If they dealt with it well, it could promote the development of the country. If not, it would plummet. Putting aside the fact that the Great Tang was helping them in the form of invasion, even if the Great Tang was helping them in a friendly manner, the moment it wasn't properly controlled, it would still cause social unrest. If the three of them could come up with such a solution, they would be gods. Even Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were troubled by the contradictions of social development, and could not come up with a reasonable and complete plan. They could only do their best to control it, and then deal with it as it came. For example, why didn't they start the war against polyphagy immediately? They were simply waiting for the Great Tang's economy to develop to a certain extent, and when there were hidden dangers of unrest. In a situation where they wanted to develop quickly, but their productivity couldn't keep up, and their laws and regulations were not perfect, They balanced the domestic economic system by consuming part of the domestic resources related to the war and other resources plundered after victory, while conscripting the relatively unemployed people to reduce the contradiction in the demand for goods. It also diverted the anger of the people due to the gap between the rich and poor caused by themselves and the environment. Then, by controlling the pace and progress of the war, they could balance the domestic demand for goods and labor. This would also give the Great Tang's Agriculture Temple and Ministry of Works time to research and improve their productivity. Once the war was over, they could relax for a while and wait for the next conflict to erupt. Takeshita Junichiro and the other two had no idea of this. They believed that if they didn't handle the current situation well, the Great Tang would attack them. Why don't we wait and see? Once Wonjo Jioyo brings the contract, we can make a decision after seeing what's written inside. After a few moments of discussion, Yamamoto, who had failed to figure out what sort of scheme they were hiding, decided to speak up. Takeshita Junichiro and Yamamoto exchanged glances, and were forced to accept this proposal. First, we need to appease the Great Tang. Otherwise, if we really use force, the schemes won't matter anymore. We should have directly met the Emperor of the Great Tang and begged him not to attack Japan, but the Great Tang found a child to answer us. It's really infuriating, Yamamoto complained. Takeshita Junichiro bitterly smiled and said, I think it's good to have a child. It's better than the Great Tang's newly established Foreign Affairs Department dealing with us. At least Xiaobei can see the Emperor of the Great Tang at any time. Tonight, she will definitely tell her brother, sister, and the Emperor about what happened during the day. If it were another official, it would drag on for 3 to 5 days, and we would be anxious to death. Yamamoto felt that it made sense and nodded. Takeshita Junichiro continued. Now we need to deal with 2 things. First, we need to get the people on the Great Tang's list over. Even if the Great Tang turns hostile and kills them here, we have to do it for the safety of the country. Second, I suggest that we increase the compensation to the Great Tang in addition to the original compensation amount, especially the seeds that we promised Xiaobei in exchange for the abalones. Even if all the seeds in exchange are dead, it's worth it. This way, the Great Tang can continue to rent the steam engine ships and gunboats to us. If that's the case, the Japanese can only force them from the people. Otherwise, we won't be able to gather the compensation amount, Yamamoto said worriedly. That's why we need to pay more compensation so that we can continue to rent ships and send our elite forces out to steal things to make up for the lack of resources in the country, Takeshita Junichiro said. Yamamoto nodded again. The discussion between the 3 quickly reached the ears of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Zhang Xiaobao and Weiwei smiled. Steal. Send all the healthy people out to steal. I don't believe that the Emperor of Japan and the other clans will really distribute the things they steal to the Japanese people. It's best to hint to them to bring back slaves. In a situation where technology can't keep up, we need more outsiders to do dangerous things. Wang Wan only raised her head to glance at Zhang Xiaobao. She didn't reply and lowered her head to continue working on her plan. This was a plan for the Southwest, and was usually a medium-term plan. At the very least, they couldn't let them fall into chaos before the war with Toshi was over. At the same time, they had to accomplish a certain strategic goal for the country. The 2 of them each carried out their duties, turning the invasion of the other into helping the other party. Xiaobei and the others also discussed for a while. Then they took a shower and dozed off, falling asleep without waiting for them to finish. The next morning, before Xiaobei could go find the Japanese, someone outside reported that someone had come looking for Xiaobei, or Xiaoyuan and the others. Who is it? Xiaobei asked. It's a girl. She looks 4 or 5 years old. She won't say anything else. She only said that she wants to see you. The person who came looked very helpless. It seemed that he had used many methods to get information, but to no avail. Xiaobei rolled his eyes and muttered in puzzlement. Whose child wants to see us so early in the morning? Tell the Japanese that we'll let them play by themselves for a while. We have things to do. Putting the matter of the Japanese aside, Xiaobei asked someone to prepare breakfast. The 11 of them sat down and called the girl they wanted to meet to eat together. Not long after, a girl stood at the door. She was indeed 4 or 5 years old. She wore a set of silk clothes that looked like Sioux embroidery. She had 2 horns on her head and a bag with a cartoon panda mark on her arm. From her clothes, she should be the child of a rich family. However, from her face, she didn't look rich at all. Her skin was a little rough, her eyes were flickering, her cheeks were thin, and the wrists that were exposed from her sleeves didn't have much flesh. It gave people the feeling that the clothes didn't fit her. It wasn't that the size didn't match, but that the temperament didn't match. The girl was very self-aware. After standing at the door, she put down her bag and raised her arms to look around, indicating that she wanted to be searched. Xiaobei looked at the others. After they gave him a look that said, "You can handle it." Xiaobei jumped down from the chair and said, "No need, no need." He came in front of the girl and asked, "You haven't eaten, right?" As soon as Xiaobei opened his mouth, the girl suddenly burst into tears. She cried and wiped her tears. "Don't cry. If you have something to say, say it. Eat first. Eat slowly. Speak slowly. You've been wronged. Seriously." Xiaobei quickly pulled her to a seat and sat beside her. He asked someone to pour a bowl of milk and advised, "Don't cry. It's easy to choke. Why don't you talk first? Who bullied you?" The girl sobbed a few times before she managed to control herself. She wiped her tears and said, "My father." Ah. Xiaobei was shocked. The others were also astonished. "What did your father do to you?" "He didn't let me study," the girl replied. "Where is your home?" "Lingzhou County, Wangya Village." "Where is this?" Xiaobei was puzzled and looked at the others. Xiao Yuan replied, "In Guangzhou." "Ah. That's so far. How did you come here? Where is your father hiding?" Xiaobei knew where Guangzhou was. The girl wiped her tears again and continued to sob. "I came here by myself. My father doesn't know. When I came here, I left a message. When I heard the merchants at my place say that you are here, I came here. I want to complain." Weiwei's mouth was agape. For a moment, she was speechless. She admired the little girl beside her. She did not die on the way here. How brave was she? The little girl did not wait for the others to continue asking. She said, "I heard that you are in Luzhou, so I came here. I found a passenger ship to Luzhou and followed behind an adult I didn't know. I pretended to be his child and boarded the ship. Children don't need tickets or money to eat. Later, when it was dark, I had nowhere to go to sleep. When I curled up in the aisle of the cabin to sleep, the people on the ship found me. I was afraid that they would send me back, so I didn't tell them about my father. I said that I wanted to complain to you. They gave me the best room to stay in, and made me a set of clothes. I followed the boat all the way to Luzhou's pier. Then they sent me to the Ocean Cloud Inn in the state capital, and booked a room in the back. They arrived last night, and sent me here this morning. They've left." The little girl quickly finished telling the story. She jumped off the chair and opened her bag. Inside were her original clothes. This set of clothes seemed to match her identity. Xiaobei nodded in surprise and asked, "So you didn't suffer along the way?" "No." The little girl shook her head. "They were very good to me. They even showed me comic books and arranged for a beautiful big sister to sleep with me." "Oh, that's good. Let's eat. We'll talk about other things after we eat. The milk will get cold soon." When Xiaobei saw that the other party had calmed down, she quickly persuaded her to eat. After eating, before Xiaobei could ask, the little girl cried again. "I'm here to complain. My father won't let me study. He told me to stay at home and look after my brother." Chapter 1136. The little girl's words made Xiaobei understand, but at the same time, he was confused. He rolled his eyes and asked in confusion, "Now you don't need to pay for school. Why is your father stopping you? What's your name?" "My father's surname is Qi. My name is Yu." The little girl was still sobbing. "Oh, Qiyu? Good name, money. Don't you have other merchants in your village who built schools for you?" Xiaobei praised and asked again. "Yes, there are schools, but my father won't let me go. My name is Yu or not Qiyu. My father said that when a girl grows up, she belongs to someone else's family. I don't need a surname." Yuer's face was full of grievance. This time, not only was Xiao Bei confused, but the other 8 people were also confused. They couldn't figure out what the problem was. She didn't need to pay for school, so why didn't she go to school? As for the surname problem, it could only be attributed to a preference for boys. Only when a certain level of attainment was reached would one not be given a surname. If you don't want to spend money, why won't your father let you go to school? You're just a little girl who can't work. What's your father thinking? Xiao Bei felt that he had encountered a big problem. Yuer wiped her tears and said, I can stay at home to look after my brother. He's 2 years old, so no one will take him to school. What about your mother? Xiao Bei asked again. My mother has to work and can't handle it. She's at the docks helping to pack things from other places. Yuer replied. Your village doesn't have a place to take care of young children? I remember my brother saying that there is. The money is taken by Tang Dynasty. Xiao Bei thought of this and asked. Yuer nodded. Yes, there is during the day, but not at night. Father and mother are very tired when they come back at night. After I cook, they eat and sleep. I take care of my brother. I have money too. I have a name in school. The school has a lot of money and gives me 25 coins every month, because they can't spend it all. Then I don't understand. You go to school during the day, and take care of your brother at night. Isn't it the same? Xiao Bei thought of the time arrangement, and thought that he had figured it out. Unexpectedly, Yuer shook her head and said, I still have chickens and pigs to feed. I have to prepare a lot of food for the pigs and chickens. They will eat as much as they can. Food costs money, so I will pay for it. Also, don't feed them. They don't grow well, and don't lay many eggs. This is called scientific feeding. I can't go to school, so I have to run back to feed them. It's mainly because I'm stupid. After I finished the first 4 months of school, and took the exams, I only got a total of 160 copper coins. If I don't go, I can get 25 copper coins a month. That means I can only get 15 copper coins a month. My father said that if I feed the chickens and pigs at home every day, and when the pigs are ready to be slaughtered, I can still earn money from selling the eggs every month. That means that if I go to school, my family will have to give me 10 copper coins every month. That's to say, if I go to school, my family will have to give me 10 copper coins every month. It won't be an extra 10 copper coins. Don't you think so? Sigh. I am still the stupid one. As Yuer spoke, Xiao Bei and the others listened, nodding their heads incessantly. Their faces were filled with admiration. This little calculation was truly too meticulous. They couldn't help but admire it. After Yuer finished speaking, Xiao Yuan continued. That is to say, whether you go to school or not depends on the 7 to 10 copper coins a month. If we give you 10 copper coins a month for free, can you go to school again? Yuer still shook her head. Someone has given me 10 copper coins before. My father still didn't let me go. He said that if someone gave me 10 copper coins, I would still be able to get an extra 10 copper coins if I stayed at home. Oh, my father said that it was called additional income. In the end, the other party stopped giving it. Don't tell me your father is the county's registrar? Xiao Bei suddenly asked. No, my father works at the docks and is in charge of checking the amount of goods. He said that it's not much different from what the registrar does. I always say that it's a waste of his talent. Yuer helplessly replied. Xiao Bei nodded. It's a waste of his talent. A person like him should be sent to the Great Tang Bank. At the very least, he's the type that governs a province. His calculation of money is extraordinary. I'll give an order to cancel the additional funding that your village's school gives you. Based on this calculation, if you don't go to school and don't get an extra 15 copper coins a month, your family will lose 15 copper coins a month. At that time, I believe that your father will let you go to school. Yuer nodded. I thought so too. But when we were on the boat, the person who accompanied me said that there was no additional money. If a child with poor grades earns less money, their family might not let them go to school. What should I do? Xiao Bei was stunned. After pondering for a while, he still couldn't figure out what was wrong. He muttered, What's missing? What's missing? How is the money appropriate? Are there other people like you in other places? Do any of you have a good idea? Xiao Bei consulted the other 8 people, hoping that they could provide him with some help. Xiao Yuan and the others were also stunned. Even Xiao Hai, who was the best at calculating, couldn't figure out how to calculate the appropriate amount of money. Everyone was silent for a while. Xiao Bei finally couldn't take it anymore. He patted Yuer's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, there will be wave-calming beads and soaring heaven wings. When the time comes, we can kill everyone in the sea and in the sky. Wait, I'll go ask my brother and sister." Xiao Bei threw down this sentence and ran away. Yuer turned her head and asked Xiao Yuan, "What are wave-calming beads and soaring heaven wings?" "These are two very powerful auxiliary weapons. As long as your sister Xiao Bei can answer the questions in the story 30 times in a row, she will be able to obtain them. Our overall strength will increase, but we don't have much confidence in this." 30 times in a row, heavens! Xiao Yuan explained to Yuer in a daze. The other 7 people also didn't have any confidence. Only Pan Er and Pan Er didn't seem to care. They were working hard to drink the milk in their bowls. Today's milk was harder to drink than before. When Xiao Bei found his brother and sister, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had just finished eating with Li Longji and the others. They ate early and finished late. The main reason was that Li Longji insisted that Zhang Xiaobao make him something to eat in the morning. It was a very ancient food, or perhaps it was a food that shouldn't have appeared in this era. It was filled with beef. At that time, it was the food that the Hui people ate. It tasted very good, even more fragrant than shumai. However, it didn't exist now. It was just that a cow had died a while ago. Zhang Xiaobao made something for his brother and sister at noon, and let Li Longji see it. Then he treated it as something like a steamed bun for breakfast. It was very troublesome to make, and if the taste wasn't right, it would be bitter. Time was spent on making it. When Xiao Bei came over, he smelled the fragrance. He smacked his lips and said with dissatisfaction, "I just ate a steamed bun, the kind that didn't have any filling. Poor cow, it must have accidentally fallen to its death." "You're really smart, Xiao Bei. You know that the steamed bun doesn't have any filling. Come, let Uncle Emperor carry you." Li Longji opened his arms to Xiao Bei in embarrassment as though he had eaten the steamed bun. When he placed Xiao Bei on his lap, Li Longji explained, "The cow didn't fall to its death, it was killed. Luzhou, your family specially raised meat cows. This is the 6th generation. We killed one and tasted it. If there's one left, why don't you eat it?" "No, I'm so angry that I'm full." "What kind of father is that?" Xiao Bei rubbed his stomach and said angrily. "Who made our Xiao Bei angry? Uncle Emperor will make the decision for you," Li Longji immediately said. After all, it was not a good habit to eat secretly. It happened in Guangzhou. I think there are other places in Great Tang as well, but I didn't manage to catch them. That place. Xiao Bei explained the matter and said, "We can't figure out what happened. We're in big trouble. Isn't that right, Uncle Emperor?" Li Longji was dumbfounded when he heard this. He nodded and tried to figure out how to give the money. It was fine if he did not give the money to the smarter children, but it was not fine if he did not give the money to the stupid children. Just as Yuer had said, if they did not give extra money to the children to attend school, their families might need more labor. However, it would be unfair to split the money. Moreover, it was impossible to directly determine who was smart and who was stupid. If he directly said that a child was stupid and was not suitable to study, it would be irresponsible of the teacher. After all, not all children were as smart as Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Li Longji was troubled when he saw Xiao Bei's expectant gaze. Education was not a small matter. After thinking for a long time, Li Longji still could not come up with a solution. In the end, he could only look at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who were sipping tea at the side and looking indifferent. Shouldn't the two of you say something?" Li Longji cleared his throat and asked. "Say what?" Zhang Xiaobao raised his head in surprise and asked in puzzlement. "Tell me how to solve the problem that Xiao Bei mentioned earlier." Li Longji glared at Zhang Xiaobao. He actually dared to laugh at him. "What is there to say? They are so spoiled that they always complain about not having enough money to attend school. Now that they have a school, they are still looking for trouble. This kind of person needs to be dealt with. If they don't allow their children to attend school, then they should be locked up for 10 days to half a month. If they don't allow their children to attend school, then they should be locked up for half a year. Then they should be whipped. Even if their hearts are as hard as steel, they should still be punished. Zhang Xiaobao slammed his teacup on the table and said angrily. Li Longji thought that Zhang Xiaobao would come up with some good idea, but after hearing his reply, he became even more dissatisfied. We didn't ask you to think of a solution in a fit of pique. I'm not in a fit of pique. What I said is a solution. This law needs to be legislated. There is a place that has done this, and the results are very good. We should also use it, Zhang Xiaobao explained. Really? Li Longji naturally knew where this place was. After pondering for a moment, he nodded. Since others have tried it, our great Tang should also try it. Sigh, the human heart is not enough. What does this mean? Ah, what does it mean? Xiaobao, speak. It means that the great Tang's propaganda is still lacking. The technology is still lacking, the methods are still lacking, and the laws are still not perfect. The burden is heavy. Forget it, let's not talk about such useless things. In any case, Your Majesty should know that this is a normal phenomenon. If we want to solve this problem from the root, we can only legislate and continue to suppress the status of merchants in society. If we raise the status of merchants too high, everyone will do business and only live for money. If the poor have no money, they will do business. If the officials have no money, they will become corrupt. If the farmers have no money, they will give up on farming. If the workers have no money, they will produce inferior products. At that time, if you want to turn back, please don't look for me or Cuckoo. The two of us are powerless. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan nodded in agreement. She also felt that Er's father's actions were caused by money. In the past 2 years, the great Tang had been promoting material goods too much, and there was a slight contradiction. As an experienced person, she agreed with Zhang Xiaobao that this matter should be nipped in the bud. When the ideological control was in place, they would turn around and encourage the acquisition of material goods, and so on. Chapter 1137. When Xiaobei left, he was carrying a food box that weighed at least 5 kilograms. The food box was hanging in front of him, and he swung it left and right as he walked. As he walked, he muttered, "I'll heat it up for lunch and sell some to the Japanese. I wonder if they can still come up with the money." As he walked back, he put down the food box and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Then he smiled and said to the people who were waiting for an answer, "Guess what Big Brother has come up with?" "What is it?" Xiao Yuan played along and asked anxiously. You'll never guess," Xiaobei said with narrowed eyes. Xiao Yuan continued to play along. "Hurry up and tell me. I'm so anxious." "Haha, Big Brother said that he'll arrest all the adults who don't let their children go to school. What do you think? Smart, right?" Xiaobei made a strangling gesture with his hands, which meant arrest. Before the others could say anything, who came to complain, shouted in horror, "Don't arrest my father. I won't complain anymore. No. First, we'll criticize and educate him. If he's disobedient, we'll arrest him. Sister I have to find someone to send you back. First, send a telegram to your father. Don't run around blindly in the future." Xiaobei patted Er's head and said like an adult. The matter of sending Er back was very simple. She just had to arrange for someone to do it. Even if she did not arrange for someone to do it, it would be the same for Er to go back by herself, just like how she came. It was believed that any Tang person who saw a child like Er would be willing to help. However, if they really did that, it would be irresponsible of the patrol envoys. After bidding farewell to the reluctant it was already noon. It was a good time to see if the Japanese still had money to buy the return. When Xiaobei and the others found Takeshita Junichiro and the others, the few Japanese had no appetite for lunch. In the morning, they strolled around the streets for 4 hours. As they walked, they looked around. The envy in their hearts was indescribable. In their eyes, apart from being prosperous, Luzhou's prefecture city was peaceful and grand. There was no place in Japan that could compare to it, let alone Luoyang and the capital. In fact, they could not even feel any jealousy in their hearts. The difference was too big. It was to the extent that they could not be jealous. Therefore, they did not forget to taste all kinds of snacks. Under the hot sun, each person drank an average of 4 bowls of sour plum soup. There was also tea in a large copper pot, which they drank until they were sweating. When Takeshita Junichiro and the others saw the lunch that Xiaobei and the other kids brought over, they immediately felt like vomiting. It was definitely not a fun thing to put cold plum juice and hot tea in their only child. Have you eaten? Xiaobei looked very regretful. He nodded and said, "All right, since you've already eaten, let's go watch the competition together after we're done. You guys have really profited by coming here this time. Not only did you get the sponsorship from the merchants, but you also got the prize money for placing in the competition. If you don't have enough money in the future, remember to come often." Inspector Zhang is right. When will your country's people come to my country to compete with my country's people? Takeshita Junichiro said hypocritically. Yamamoto and Yamamoto nodded in agreement. In their hearts, they continued to ponder what schemes Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's siblings would come up with. Even if everything looked good, they could not be at ease. Xiaobei thought for a moment and replied, "When Japan feels that we should send athletes over, we'll go over. We can even provide you with the reward money so that you'll feel less burdened. Then you can sell some tickets and the country will have money, right? As for the reward money, there's no need for your country to pay, right? Japan can still take out such a small amount of money. The tickets are actually not that important. The main thing is to let people experience the elegance of your country's athletes." Takeshita Junichiro replied generously. They had already given away so many dried abalones, so why would they be short of money? At the same time, he temporarily put down his worries. The main thing was that Xiaobei did not set a date when he answered. If there was a conspiracy, he would definitely rush to Japan. When Xiaobei heard this, he smiled embarrassedly and said, "I'm being stingy. Since that's the case, you can also take care of the travel expenses of our team of athletes." What are travel expenses? This was the first time Takeshita Junichiro had heard this term. Errands are errands. Travel is tourism. Expenses are. It's money. I got it. Without waiting for Xiaobei to finish his explanation, Takeshita Junichiro expressed that he understood. He then asked, "How much does it cost?" "That depends on how many people are going. Actually, it doesn't cost much. When we go over, we take the boat, sleep and eat. As for shopping, we have our own money." I just remembered. In Japan, can Tang Dynasty's money be used to buy things? In the past, we used copper coins, right? Now that we have changed to paper money, I'm worried that we can't use it. We can't possibly bring goods over, sell them, and then use the money to buy things. That's too troublesome. Xiaobei counted with his fingers as he talked about the travel expenses. Then he suddenly thought of the problem of money. This problem stumped Takeshita Junichiro. Japan now had Tang Dynasty's money. It was the copper coins from the past, and there were also copper coins made by Japan. The circulation was not particularly good, and there were many places that were willing to barter. Tang Dynasty's new money had yet to circulate in Japan. When Japanese goods were sold and received money, they directly bought things back. Even when Tang Dynasty went over, many merchants also took goods and exchanged them for Japanese money. However, the exchange of money that Xiaobei was asking about was not easy to deal with. How much was Tang Dynasty's money worth in Japan? Buying silk was naturally to show that Tang Dynasty's money was more valuable. 1 copper coin was more than 10 copper coins in Japan. It was the same for ceramics. If it was exchanged for fish and silver, Japan's copper coins were still more valuable. 1 copper coin was worth 2 copper coins of Tang Dynasty. If it was based on the value of silk, it was obvious that his country would suffer a loss once the exchange happened. Tang Dynasty would get a few copper coins. After all, it was all paper. If they bought everything in Japan, would Japan be able to take out goods worth a few 100 million copper coins? Then they would take Tang Dynasty's money to spend. The more they exchanged, the more his country would lose. No, he could not exchange like that. If they were to exchange using the method of silver and fish, would Tang Dynasty be willing? They were not fools. Takeshita Junichiro thought for a while before saying, "We should be able to exchange, but I'm not sure how. I wonder if our Japanese money can be exchanged for Tang Dynasty's money directly?" "Of course not. You have a limited variety of goods in Japan. If I take your Japanese money, what can I buy in Japan? Poor or poor, my great Tang has plenty of good things, right? Also, if you suddenly get 10 million strings of money to exchange with us in Japan, then turn around and issue a large amount of currency, the money is worthless. So 10 million strings of money can only buy something worth 1 million strings of money. Who will give me the 9 million strings of money that is gone?" Xiaobei did not need anyone to remind him. He immediately thought of this problem and shook his head vigorously. Takeshita Junichiro frowned. "Don't keep talking about Japan. If Tang Dynasty also takes out 100 million strings of money and issues a large amount of currency, we will also lose money. How is that possible? How many people do we have in Tang Dynasty? How many things do we have? How many things do you have in Japan? Why would we care about your things? How much money would it cost to buy everything in Japan? It's not worth it to go through so much trouble for those things. Don't you think so?" Xiaobei retorted. Takeshita Junichiro and the others nodded and thought about it. In the past, they used Tang Dynasty's copper coins because Tang Dynasty's money was reliable. With Tang Dynasty's money in hand, they did not have to worry. "Since that's the case, I'll go back and discuss with my country before discussing with you about the exchange. What do you think?" Takeshita Junichiro agreed first. "All right," Xiaobei agreed. In the afternoon, the group of children accompanied the Japanese to continue watching the competition in the stadium. When it was time for dinner, the 11 children found their brother, sister, and the emperor. The moment he saw his brother, Xiaobei frowned and said, "I seem to have done something wrong today. Agreeing to exchange currency with the Japanese means exchanging Tang Dynasty's money for Japanese money. I haven't thought of how to do it yet. Will we lose money?" When Li Longji heard this, he pondered for a moment and nodded. "I reckon that if Japan allows their money to be valuable, Tang Dynasty will lose money. It doesn't matter. We haven't made a deal yet. We'll talk about it when we need to exchange. Isn't that right, Xiaobao?" The other people who accompanied them for dinner, including the women and Zhang Xiaobao's grandfather, all looked at Zhang Xiaobao at the same time. When it came to money, Zhang Xiaobao seemed to have the most right to speak. However, Zhang Xiaobao smiled at Wei Wei. He turned to Wang Wan and said, "Madam, tell His Majesty about the exchange of currency." Wang Wan also smiled and said to the puzzled people, "As long as Japan agrees to a one-sided currency exchange, it doesn't matter how much the exchange is. This is a trap." Chapter 1138. Hearing Wang Wan's words, even though Li Longji hadn't figured out the crux of the matter, he wasn't worried anymore. He believed that the two of them would be able to handle it. Empress Wang also nodded with a smile. In the past, she only knew that the imperial court would issue a special kind of money when they were short on money. For example, 1 copper coin could be exchanged for 5 copper coins. Only by taking away the money in the hands of the commoners would the imperial court be able to buy more things. But now, it was clear that the imperial court couldn't do that no matter what. This plan wasn't a quick one. Using it would be akin to killing the goose that laid the golden eggs. If they really needed money but couldn't take it out, they could issue national bonds or negotiate with the commoners to get them to donate a portion of their money. Thus, the imperial court wasn't in a hurry to get money. Everything was because of Zhang Xiaobao. Now that Wang Wan had mentioned the exchange ratio, it didn't matter. There definitely wouldn't be a problem. On the other hand, the one who was curious about this was Wu Huifei. She, who was already obsessed with finance, couldn't figure out how the exchange ratio would work. This was especially so when Japan's money was valuable while Great Tang's money wasn't. How could they take advantage of it? Thus she asked, "Cuckoo, I understand that Great Tang's money is valuable. It means that we can buy a large amount of Japanese goods and make them poor. If they impose export taxes, we won't buy anything. This way, they won't be able to get any money from our Great Tang, and they won't be able to buy anything from our Great Tang. When the time comes, We'll just raise the price and earn back our money. However, if we change the value of Japanese money, won't we suffer a loss? If our great Tang goes to buy things, for example, 1 copper coin in Japan is worth 10 copper coins in Great Tang. If we change it to 100,000 strings of coins, it will become 10,000 strings of coins in Japan. How many things can we buy with that? Tell me, how can we prevent our Great Tang from suffering a loss? Wu Huifei's question was very representative. Li Longji, Gao Lisher, and Wang Ju all turned their gazes to Zhang Xiaobao. In their opinion, they had to look for Xiaobao for economic calculations. Zhang Xiaobao didn't respond and continued to drink his tea. Wang Wan smiled again and said, Xiaobao doesn't need to answer these small questions. Only someone in Japan who can reach the top 10 of the Tang Empire's billionaires list is worthy of Xiaobao's help. In terms of finance, Xiaobao is good at creating opportunities when there are no opportunities in a seemingly perfect system. Xiaobao doesn't care about the things that are on the surface. After praising Zhang Xiaobao for a while, Wang Wan began to answer the question. I can say what concubine Hui is thinking. For example, 1 Japanese coin is worth 10 Tang coins. Our Tang Empire only needs to relax the export rules. We can directly ship the goods to Japan and sell them. In the past, we didn't take Japanese money. Now we can relax the policy of selling the goods to Japan and allow the local Japanese to buy them with Japanese money. When the Japanese sell the goods to our Great Tang will deduct the tax that the Japanese should pay and pay with Japanese money. In the past, we used Great Tang's money to pay, but after changing to Japanese money, the Japanese goods will depreciate by 10 times. The Japanese can't buy Great Tang's goods with their own country's money, so they will suffer a big loss. Xiaobao, don't you think so? Oh, you can do that? Li Longji expressed his interest and nodded repeatedly. The eyes of the others also lit up. One-sided currency exchange seemed to have such advantages. Wu Huifei said excitedly, in fact, we don't have to sell Great Tang's goods. Our Great Tang has many businessmen in Japan now, and they have money in their hands. Xiaobao, I didn't expect you to teach Cuckoo so well. Zhang Xiaobao, who was drinking tea, curled his lips. He didn't teach Wang Wan these words at all. Hearing this, he said, in fact, we don't need to relax the policy. It's still Great Tang's money to buy Great Tang's goods and ship them to Japan. In private, we give the Japanese a chance to exchange Great Tang's money with Japanese money. The value of Japanese money will directly decrease, and then there will be a large gap between the public and the government. We don't need to pay any other costs and can make money by selling. If the Japanese magnates and nobles are willing to lend money to the Great Tang, with the high exchange rate of Japan, it won't take long for the Japanese economy to collapse. I hope that there are smart people in Japan, and that they won't all be so stupid. After saying this, Zhang Xiaobao looked disinterested and continued drinking tea with his head lowered, as if he felt that the topic of currency was very boring. The group of children looked at their brother with shining eyes. Xiao Bei muttered softly, so arrogant. This is our brother. He's so arrogant and low-key. Why does it feel like he's lonely and seeking defeat? If only I could be like that one day. Can you call it modesty? Xiao Yuan also said softly. You're the best form of modesty if you don't oppose me. Xiao Bei glared at Xiao Yuan. The others ignored the 2 children and continued to nod. It sounded like Xiao Bao's method was more orthodox and didn't relax the policy. In that case, we don't need to worry about how Japan will adjust the exchange rate. We just need to agree to the one-way exchange between currencies? Li Longji asked in conclusion. Wang Wan continued. Yes, when the time comes, we can exchange more Great Tang money to Japan. At the same time, we can send more consumables and exquisite handicrafts to Japan. When the exchange rate reaches a certain level, we can directly borrow a large amount of Japanese money from Japanese banks, nobles, and the imperial court. Then we can use Japanese money to exchange Great Tang money in Japan. Everything will be over. What do you mean? Wu Huifei felt like she had learned a lot recently. She understood most of the things, but today, she was confused once again. Judging from Wang Wan's words, it seemed like Japan would be finished if they did as she said. But what was the reason? Li Longji and the others were also dumbfounded. It sounded like a simple matter of trade, but why did it feel like two armies were fighting on the battlefield? Your Highness Huifei should think about it slowly. Always listening to others say the answer will make you stupid. Zhang Xiaobao, who had drunk a lot of tea, spoke again. Wu Huifei endured the discomfort in her heart and nodded. She said, in other words, once this exchange rate is opened, Japan will be finished? Is there any way for Japan to avoid this danger? There is. It is to strictly control the exchange rate of Great Tang and ensure the value of Japan's currency. But if they really exchange, which Japanese can resist this temptation? Wang Wan said. Is there really no way once the exchange rate is opened? What if Xiaobao is a Japanese? Wu Huifei asked again, unwilling to give up. Wang Wan shook her head. It's useless. Once the exchange rate starts, even if Xiaobao is a Japanese, I, as the main financial attacker of Great Tang, will deal with Xiaobao. Xiaobao can only admit defeat. Everyone's eyes fell on Zhang Xiaobao again. Zhang Xiaobao nodded helplessly. Yes, I represent Japan. Cuckoo is in charge of Great Tang's attack, and I can't defend. Japan's agriculture is not good, its industry is not good, and its military is not good. The territory is small and the population is small. What can I use to fight? Unless I am put alone in Great Tang, I can hide my identity and cause trouble there. Everyone revealed a happy and enlightened expression. Then I am relieved. Xiaobei, you go and discuss this matter with Japan. Do it as soon as possible, and I will allow you to open a candy house in Japan. Li Longji smiled and said to the little guys who were also thinking about internal affairs. Xiaobei pouted hard and replied, should I thank the Lord for his kindness? Chapter 1139. In Heiyunjian restaurant, Takeshita Junichiro and the others, who did not know that once Japan opened up the currency exchange system, were worried about what they had just said. What was different was that Takeshita Junichiro and the others were worried about the value of the currency in their country, and not the crisis that would arise from the one-sided exchange system. Once the emperor is bewitched by others or forced by other clans to set the value of our Japanese currency too high, it will make it seem like Japan is taking advantage of us. However, it will easily incur the dissatisfaction of Great Tang. Our currency cannot be calculated based on the value of silver or fish. Otherwise, Great Tang will use the value of cannons to determine our value, and we will definitely be defeated. Yamamoto said with a deep voice, feeling anxious. Yamamoto also had a heavy expression. That's right. Although I would like to exchange 1 copper coin for 100 copper coins of Great Tang, and use that money to buy what our country needs, if we really do that, Great Tang will temporarily stop attacking the duo and send their main forces to the coast. Our country will not be able to withstand their anger. Say. Takeshita Junichiro sighed. He knew that the two people in front of him were not wrong, but he also knew that the situation in the country was not so. Many people thought that Great Tang was not too powerful, and only felt that it was slightly stronger in naval warfare. How would they know that Great Tang was not only strong in warships? It was all the fault of some of the higher-ups in the country, who did not tell the truth to the people, giving them hope that they could resist. They even told the people in the country that Great Tang could not afford to eat fish, and that they could only eat vegetables in many places, not even meat. Thus, the people in the country treated Great Tang as an existence on par with them. However, that was definitely not the case. Yes, many people in Great Tang could not afford to eat fish, but that was because the people in the country did not know how big Great Tang was, and how long it would take to travel from the coast to the innermost land. They could not afford to eat fish, but they could eat river and lake fish. As for saying that they could not eat meat, that was too fake. It might be possible to say that they could not eat meat from cows, goats, and pigs because these animals did not produce many cubs. It was also true that they could not eat venison, tiger, and bear meat because they were not easy to hunt. Guns were not something that ordinary people could own. If they managed to hunt one, they would have to sell it for money for the rich. But besides these beasts, the Great Tang also had poultry. The speed at which chickens were born and grew up was not slow, and they laid many eggs. Nowadays, the price of eggs was much cheaper than that of fish. As long as one was not sick or too lazy, every family had eggs and chickens to eat. Hide it from the people of our country. One day, they will reap what they sow. The Great Tang is stronger than they can imagine, especially when it comes to education, medical care, and disaster relief. I've decided, if our country really wants to set the Japanese currency too high, I will do my utmost to persuade the Great Tang not to exchange for it. Junichiro Takeshita said sadly to Kazanji Yamamoto. The two of them could empathize with Takeshita Junichiro's helplessness and nodded in agreement. Yamamoto casually picked up a turn back that Xiaobei had given him and took a bite. He slowly chewed and found that apart from being a little cold, it wasn't as fishy or bitter as he had imagined. After he finished eating a turn back, he said, "Indeed, we should tell Zhang Xiaobei and the others first. If there really are people in our country who are so stupid that they don't know the rules, at least Zhang Xiaobei and the others won't be jealous of us. This thing called turn back is clearly filled with beef stuffing, so why doesn't it feel bad to eat it when it's cold? It's probably Zhang Xiaobao who personally made it for his younger siblings. It's said that his cooking skills aren't the best in the Great Tang. Many older chefs are better than him in terms of carving and skill, but the dishes he makes are what others like to eat the most. He treats cooking as a form of enjoyment, not a form of work. I also heard that he and Wang Wan are people who came from the heavens and are proficient in all kinds of seasonings. The food they eat in the heavens is better than in the mortal world. After eating so many good things, their understanding of food is naturally better than many people." Shanji was very unwilling to mention this topic because it was too mysterious. He actually brought up the topic of immortals, but he felt that deliberately not mentioning it was a kind of fear, a kind of timidity, so he still said it. "Haha, Shanji, you're still afraid, so afraid that you don't dare to admit it." Zhang Xiaobao is said to have started cooking for his family when he was 3 or 4 years old. It's been 15 or 16 years now. If he's talented enough, how can he not learn after more than 10 years? If he's really an immortal, who knows how many years he's been cooking in the heavens? Are you going to eat it or not? If not, I'll eat it all in a while. Let's talk about money. The Great Tang has so much money that when there's a disaster in the Great Tang, the imperial court will immediately take out money to help. Those deceived people in our country are licking their wounds after the disaster. 2 years ago, when the 2 provinces along the Yangtze River were flooded, the people in the vicinity just took their bags and ran away, abandoning their houses and livestock. If it were Japan, would the people be willing to do so? Even if they were bitten off and thrown away, what about after the disaster? Who would care about them? Every time I hear that after the disaster, the people who collect rent still fight with the locals, I feel sad. It's already like that, so what's the point of collecting rent? Look at what the Great Tang did. When the people evacuated, the things supported by the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families and the imperial court were sent to the place where they were to be settled. Once the flood passed, the money of each family was compensated according to the records of the local government. The local garrison was also mobilized to help repair the houses and clear the mud. When the day comes that the people of Japan know what the people of the Great Tang enjoy, it will be the beginning of the end of Japan. We're not afraid of not knowing what's good, but we're afraid of comparing goods. Money, the Great Tang has money, but Japan doesn't. Why don't we be honest with Zhang Xiaobao and the others and ask them what proportion of Japan's money should be? Let them know that we don't want to be wolves, we're willing to be dogs. As owners, we can't bully our own dogs together, right? Yamamoto, who really couldn't think of any solution, said the most aggrieved and objective words in his heart to Takeshita Junichiro and Shanji. Sigh. Takeshita Junichiro sighed again. He narrowed his eyes and thought that it didn't feel good to be a dog. It was better to become a wolf when invading others, such as when they fought against Silla. But who asked his Japan to be so bad? It seemed that he couldn't fight against the Great Tang before. Fear came from the depths of his heart, or perhaps from the depths of his soul. The money he used and the clothes he wore were all copied from the Great Tang. He couldn't even get rid of eating and writing. What was most lamentable was that the Great Tang was clearly eating the food of the lower class, but his own country treated it as good food. For example, seaweed or kelp was used on the outside, rice was in the middle, and fish and vegetables were in the innermost. That was something that the fishermen of the past only had rice and vegetables when they went out to sea. In desperation, they rolled the fish and seaweed together. It didn't have much taste, and it was sour and fishy. After the people of his country learned it, they actually treated it as good food. All right, let's be dogs then. Tomorrow I'll look for Zhang Xiaobao and the others and tell them. Takeshita Junichiro's thoughts returned and he nodded in agreement. Are we going to bully them like dogs? Xiaobei, who had just finished listening to the story in the evening and had answered all the questions correctly today, was still not sleepy. She held a large cup of fruit juice in her hand and talked to her brother and sister. What she was talking about now was her attitude towards the Japanese. In her opinion, the Japanese were too easy to bully. According to the classic words in her brother's story, they were like dogs. There was no challenge at all, and they were even worse than Xinlua, who knew that when she said this, her brother and sister had a serious expression and shook their heads at the same time. What? Aren't the Japanese dogs? Xiaobei asked, puzzled. Wang glanced at Zhang Xiaobao, indicating that she wanted Zhang Xiaobao to answer. Zhang Xiaobao looked up at the stars and thought for a while, then said, it doesn't matter whether they are dogs or not. What's important is the tenacious vitality of this nation. It's not wrong to say that they are dogs. This nation has always been suppressed by others, and has never had a day of independence. The difference is that the masters are often changed. However, we can't look down on them just because they are dogs, because they are just like us. They are very tenacious. In the face of great danger and pressure, they will be very united. When there is internal strife, it will not affect their resistance to external forces. Also, we are going to fight the polyglot next year. It is also not easy to completely eliminate them. However, the polyglot people are stupid, but the Japanese are smart. They are as smart as us, so we have to face them head-on. Oh, okay, I will face them head-on. I won't look down on them. Brother, are we the best? Xiaobei agreed, not fully understanding, and asked again. That depends on the aspect. Our strength lies in our perseverance. Whether it is the Byzantine Empire or ancient Rome, whether it is ancient India or ancient Greece, whether it is ancient Egypt or ancient Maya. In the long river of time, the only place that still has a civilization is China. It was the same for Japan. This was a race that could not be destroyed without killing everyone. However, it was too difficult to kill them all. In the face of life and death, there was no status or dignity. There was only life. Therefore, no matter what kind of opponent you faced, please treat them as a person. Let's not talk about this anymore. I will tell you the story of currency exchange in the financial aspect. First, I will start with the creation of currency a long time ago. Zhang Xiaobao first talked about the things that his younger brothers and sisters did not understand and could not understand. Then he changed the topic and began to talk about currency in the form of a story. Wang accompanied him. When Zhang Xiaobao talked about the only civilization left was China, she unconsciously puffed out her chest. When Zhang Xiaobao told the story of currency, she became as quiet as the bright moonlight in the sky, smiling at him. The next day, when Takeshita Junichiro and the others saw Xiaobei again, they directly said to him, Inspector Zhang, regarding the one-sided currency exchange, I would like to mention it to you first. Oh, you can make the decision? In fact, I don't think there is anything to say. It can be changed. It is convenient for the people of Tang to use Tang's money when they go to Japan. Xiaobei yawned and said to Takeshita Junichiro. She was addicted to listening to the story yesterday and drank 2 cups of coffee, which she usually did not want to drink. When she finished listening to her brother's story, she drank some milk, took a bath, and went to sleep. She was still sleepy. Takeshita Junichiro did not know. He thought that Xiaobei did not want to hear about this matter, so he quickly said, It is not that simple. Regarding the currency exchange ratio, how do you think we should exchange Japanese money? The other Japanese also stared at Xiaobei, hoping to get an answer from her, even if it was just for reference. Xiaobei rubbed her eyes, thought for a while and said, I feel that I should respect you Japanese people, so I will tell you the truth. How much is your money worth? Don't always think about taking advantage of it, or you will suffer in the end. Let me mention something. Calculate according to the price of livelihood goods, that is, clothes, food, and housing. There is no need to consider good. The same food, clothes, and housing quality, compare them with Tang's, and then determine the purchasing power of your currency according to Tang's price. Then deduct the import and export tariff of Tang, and it is almost the final price of your currency. This is the most correct way. I will treat you as a living person, otherwise I would not tell you. I will let you do whatever you want. That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.